Good evening, everybody. It is Tuesday, January 26th. It is 6:31 p.m. and this is the Groton Town Council Committee of the Whole meeting. All councilors are present with the exception of Councilor Parker, who is attending a TVCCA meeting and will be joining us shortly. Calendar and communications. I'd like to begin with the communications this evening. And on behalf of the town of Groton, I'd like to extend our sympathy to Councilor Franco and her family on the passing of your father. We appreciate your taking the energy to be with us tonight and do the people's work. So thank you very much. And I'm sure you will be in the council's prayers. Thank you. Councilor Baumgartner.
Yes, I would like to echo comments made by our mayor. Deepest condolences to you, Rachel. I'm here for you. If you need anything, you already know that. Yesterday, I toured the Pratt building with Councilor Heed as well as Councilor Borde. Hadn't been inside that building since I took swim lessons as a kid, and definitely brought me down memory lane, and look forward to seeing those the building come into fruition. And with that, I have nothing further. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Franco.
I don't have anything to report tonight. Thank you.
Councilor Heed.
Yes, I toured the Pratt building with Councilors Baumgartner and Borde, as already mentioned. Good to see the building. Thanks.
Councilor Borde, please.
Let's see what's been happening in my life. When I was at the Pratt building, I did take a series of pictures of the theater, and I'll be sharing that with everybody in the very near future. And other than that, it's mostly a countdown to when I get my first shot. That seems to be what my life is about today. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Borde.
Thank you. I also just want to echo what was already stated to Councilor Franco. I know over the last several months, while your father had been ill, we had been in direct contact and, able to speak to you on many occasions. And I was glad I was able to share those moments with you and be a source of support. And I will continue to be if you need me. As I had stated, your family has done an amazing, impeccable job being there for your father through his toughest time. And as a cancer survivor myself, I will say one of the hardest positions to be in is not being the patient that's ill, but looking at your caregivers look at you as you make a decline or make improvements and are there watching you. So my greatest sympathy and condolences to you and your family. And thank you. I know your father must have been very thankful to have you guys by his side and be able to go down and do all the work and care that you guys are able to. So I just, again, send my deepest sympathy to you guys and love, support. And if you ever want to reach out, I'm still here as always. With that, under communications, I did attend the Groton Long Point Bridge meeting. I did not stay for the whole meeting, but I did pop in. And then I also attended the Fields Task Group, sports fields. That's all I have to report tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. For the record, Councilor Borde or Councilor Parker. Councilor Borde was talking. Councilor Parker joined us at 6:34. We are on to Councilor Melendez.
Nothing to report.
Thank you. And now Councilor Zepari.
I join everyone else in offering condolences to Councilor Franco and her family for the loss of her father. Otherwise, I have no report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Parker, we can circle back to you. Thank you for attending that meeting for us. Did you have any communications for us this evening?
Expressing my condolences to Councilor Franco and family. And that's all I have to report. Thank you.
Thank you. I do have a communication from the Groton Sale Foundation meeting that I attended last night. They're moving forward and seems to be making good progress. They're going to be reaching out to the manager to sign the MOU at some point this week. And they are planning, they have a very well thought out plan. Rear Admiral has been working with NAVC to facilitate the transfer of the sale to the town. And they have a very organized timetable all laid out. So things are moving right along. They will be looking to do some outreach. They're going to be bringing on a PR firm to help with the outreach and also to help with fundraising. So they're looking to raise $2.5 million and leave the town with an endowment of, I believe, I don't want to say the wrong amount. They want to leave several $100,000 endowment for the town when they turn the sale over to us, when it's all finished, for the upkeep of the property and the sale. So things are going very well. It's a very, very diligent group with many, many different types of skills. And it's all working for the people of Groton. So we should be very happy that they're out there doing that work for us. All right, so we are on to approval of minutes. And we have two sets of minutes. This is 2021-52, January 5th and January 12th. And we are at Councilor Baumgartner, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the Committee of the Whole special meeting minutes of January 5th, 2021, and the minutes of January 12th, 2021. So moved.
Second, Bordelon.
Moved by Baumgartner and seconded by Bordelon. Is there discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? So moved unanimously. We are at 9 councilors as of 6:34. Okay. We are on to new business, which is on page 17 in your packet. And this is a continuation of the discussion of 2020-608 Fort Rachel Potential Road right-of-way. And this was page 17. And let me just get there. Okay. Two things. We have with us this evening Attorney Callahan, who is here. There he is, and is permitted to speak. You have it set so Mr. Callahan can speak, Mr. Burt?
Yes.
Thank you. And Mr. Callahan will be here to offer his legal advice to us as we proceed. And I'll just stop there. And we will open the floor to discussion if anybody cares to make a motion at this point. Please remember, if we're making motions, they cannot be identical to motions that have already failed. And I'm going to ask that you commit them to writing. Councilor Franco.
Thank you. I have a motion to put on the floor. I'd like to make a amended motion. The town of Groton would like to move forward with coastal access via the town attorney in the downtown Mystic area through Fort Rachel, which was laid out in the access plan of 1990 and 1991, including court resolution if necessary. Thank you.
Second, Baumgartner.
Okay, hold on one second. We just need to be sure that it's not identical to a prior motion. So if we could just take a look at that for a minute, please. I see that that was moved by Baumgartner, seconded by Franco. I just need to verify, and any extra eyes looking at it likewise would be most helpful. So
Page 14, there is a motion that's the same.
Actually, the motion that was proposed on page 14 said in the Fort Rachel area. I'm proposing that it go from the downtown area to the Fort Rachel. The whole plan to go as as a whole, not just one area.
Okay, hold that thought for 1 second, please. So this is on page 9 of the, this is on, I think Councilor Zepari said page 14. It's on page 9 of the original minutes, but I need to get there.
Page
So I just want
14 of
everybody
the
to be on the same,
packet.
I'm sorry?
Page 14 of the packet.
Thank you. Page 14 of the packet. If everybody could just take a look so that we can distinguish between the two. So the motion that was put forth last time, I think Councilor Franco read this. She moved last time, or someone moved last time. Councilor Borde moved this last time. I move to have the attorney continue research on behalf of the town. Nope, that's the wrong one. That's not the right one. Oh, here.
Bottom of the page.
The town of Groton would like to move forward with coastal access via the town attorney in the Fort Rachel area as per the coastal access plan of 1990 and 1991, including court resolution if necessary. So that was the motion from last time that failed. So
Pardon me, Madam Mayor, at the bottom of page 14, first amended motion, the town of Groton would like to move forward with the coastal access via the town attorney in Fort Rachel area as per the coastal access plan of 1990 and 91, including court resolution if necessary. That motion failed.
That's correct. So this time, Councilor Franco has added a phrase to that, which is in the downtown Mystic area through, has been the addition to the failed amendment from the last time we met.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
if I may, a part of the program was to discuss the Fort Rachel area and not the rest of the coastal access plan.
Mr. Burt, if you,
And so this exceeds the scope of the agenda and what was revealed to the people of the town when the agenda was published.
okay, so I assume then that you are opposed to this amendment, Councilor Zepari.
I'm opposed to the new motion because it's out of order.
Okay, so what I need
is the Fort Rachel area.
Thank you. You just heard. What I need to know from Attorney Callahan is if this is a different enough motion or if this is essentially the same motion. If it's essentially the same motion, we can't move forward with it.
I think in substance, it's virtually the same motion that was already rejected in the past. And I do agree that the item on the agenda tonight is specific to the Fort Rachel property.
Okay, so then I would ask that so this motion is out of order then. Councilor Baumgartner.
Yes, I'd like to read a motion.
I'm going to ask that you commit it to writing. You can read it first, then commit it to writing, or vice versa, please. I need to start the timer. I will start it when you begin, sir.
The town of Groton would like to move forward with coastal access via the town attorney in the Fort Rachel area as per the coastal.
Very similar to another motion as well. And I'm going to ask everybody to take a minute and look at the minutes.
Madam Mayor, it's the same motion that we objected to, on the basis of which we objected to the last motion. It's on the bottom of page 14 in the agenda packet.
Okay. I'm sorry, I'm just going back there and looking over things. So then this would fall in the same category as the last motion then, Attorney Callahan?
Yes, I think it's essentially the same as the last motion.
Thank you. So the motion is out of order.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, sir.
point of order, or just seeking clarification. We voted on 3 motions at the last meeting. Many of those motions were worded very similarly. Are we now faced with not being able to vote on a motion simply because it sounds too much like previous motions we voted on? And if that's the case, then I think this is a much larger discussion we need to have about business we're conducting in council.
So the motions that failed, as per our rules and Robert's rules, I believe, you cannot keep repeating the same failed motions again and again unless they are brought for reconsideration. Reconsideration has to be brought by the prevailing side. So these items could come back, but you can't have essentially the same motion just continue to be raised again and again.
And through you, Madam Mayor, I may add the only reason why this failed, it didn't fail overwhelmingly. Even a motion that had consensus failed because it was a tie vote, 4-4. So it goes without saying this council is very split on this issue. And I think we ought to vote on it tonight and I think lay this issue to rest.
Point of order, Your Honor, Madam Mayor.
Yes.
The issue was decided and the vote failed. There was a quorum at the time. It was a valid vote and the numbers of the vote are not material so long as the vote failed based on there being a quorum and the decision has been made.
I am going to see if any other counselors wish to speak before we go to second-time speakers. Councilor Aubry? Councilor Aubry, you're muted. Let me stop the timer. Councilor Aubry?
Yep, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's all right. Go ahead. I won't restart it yet. Go ahead.
Okay. I apologize for the fact I lost my video here for a bit when you first started talking about this, but I think that what we need to do is to probably come up with a new motion that is not similar to what we have here. And maybe then we could find a way to move forward a little bit. I'm not exactly sure exactly how I feel about it. I'm not comfortable with it. I don't really want to get into Fort Rachel. I would rather come down the walkway that's supposed to be there and challenge some of the other areas that we need, because I'm not in agreement that we need to take a path through Fort Rachel. So that's how I feel. I'm not quite ready to make a motion. Maybe somebody could do that for me.
Councilor Aubry, I've already offered to.
Councilor Aubry,
Without Fort Rachel?
so the item on the agenda tonight is Fort Rachel. And this was one of the objections of Councilor Zepari's was we need to be addressing the item that is on the agenda tonight. This was not an overall coastal access item. While
Right.
people may agree with you and share your desires to move forward with overall coastal access, the item on the agenda tonight is Fort Rachel potential right-of-way. So we need to constrain our remarks and our motions to that particular item this evening. That's not to say that we could not come back and look at the overall issue of coastal access, in which case then we could go forward with some of the things that Councilor Aubry was just saying. Does that make sense? Councilor Aubry, is that clear?
Yes, thank you. I'm sorry. I didn't realize that was directed just to me.
That's okay. No, it was directed to everybody, but I wanted to make
Okay.
sure that you were good with that.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you through? Because I'll go on.
I apologize. Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you. All right, so then we're going to continue with first time hands before we go back for a second round. And I'm seeing Councilor Heed. Councilor Heed, you have the floor and I'll start the timer when you begin.
Yeah, I won't take the full 3 minutes. I just want to point out that if I'm not sure if we have 5 votes in favor of going for legal action on Fort Rachel, but I'd be okay bringing this back as part of a bigger discussion if that's the way the council is going to go.
Thank you, Councilor Heed. Any other first-time speakers? I'm going to take this opportunity then if no one else wishes to speak at this point. Let me start the timer. Okay, and it is 6:53. I generally concur with Councilor Heed at this point. I don't think there is consensus to move forward with the motions that have been on the floor regarding Fort Rachel. However, I would be interested in very much looking at the remainder or the entire issue of coastal access, in particular, the area coming from the river and down towards Fort Rachel. There seems like there's a lot of potential there that I really would like to explore. And I think our energies would be better spent working on that space and trying to improve that. So I would be willing to come back and try to work through some kind of resolution for the bigger coastal access picture, which is what I think. I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, but I feel that there are at least 2 other councilors here that feel the same way. And let me stop the timer. This is really tedious. Okay, hold on. Cancel. All right. Any other first-time speakers? Okay, I'm going to go to Councilor Franco then. Oh, wait, Councilor Borde, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Councilor Borde.
Thank you. So, yeah, I guess the question is we moved in the direction, as you just stated, would Fort Rachel still be wrapped into that for possibilities if new information was to develop, or are you suggesting or insinuating that we not include that part at all in it? That's my question, I guess.
Are you asking me personally?
Well, I know you and Conrad, you said you agreed with Councilor Heed, so I was just asking, with that thought process of moving forward with the greater, broader picture of coastal access, are we also looking to continue with Fort Rachel included, encompassed in that?
May I speak, or do you wish to hold the floor?
No, go ahead. I paused. And
I can only speak for myself. I don't know if anyone's going to put a motion on the floor to do this. I don't know what the contents of that motion will be. Personally, I would like to focus more on the other part of coastal access along the river and any other parts of town where we might have the opportunity. That would be my focus. Again, I cannot speak for the other councilors, and I do not have a motion on the floor at this point. Councilor Borde, do you want the floor back? Because I'll resume your timer.
yes, I'd like to finish. Thank you. My question then is if we do not encompass that into whatever motion was to be created, I guess maybe a question for the attorney, is it kind of a done deal, or how would that work? You know, if let's just say some new development comes out of Fort Rachel in the meantime, as we started to develop the other sections or look into the coastal access, and some other documents that surfaced or something else was found, then at that time, what could we do? Because I think my problem is yeah, maybe at this time we might not have the support of the documents, or we might not have the council's support, I should say, to move forward with Fort Rachel in that capacity. But I'd like to keep the door open so that it's not a closed door in the event that new documents or information was to surface. It allows for the proper transparency to do the due diligence that's needed. So how do we move forward from tonight to do such is my question. Thank you.
And would you like Attorney Callahan to answer that, or would you like me to answer?
I mean, I guess the attorney's opinion, you can choose how you want to, but I would just think an answer, I mean, that we have our attorney here.
He's muted. I will begin. Oh, here he is. Okay, go ahead, sir.
I'm just looking at the motions that failed last time. And I think it was made clear at the last meeting that if these motions were pursued and failed, even with a 4-4 vote, then it does have some consequences. So absent a motion for reconsideration, there are some motions that have failed here. And, so I think, the motions that failed is moving for a declaratory judgment, continuing to research the issue, putting signage on the site to signify more rights than what the easement allowed, or moving for a prescriptive easement, and moving forward with coastal access per the 1990 or 1991 plan. So, I think you would have to make a motion that was somehow substantively different than those motions, to kind of deal with the issue going forward. And, and perhaps the motion is something as simple as, if new information is discovered that is not taken into account in the letter I wrote, or something to that effect, that we will, rebroach this issue again in the future.
What I was going to add, may I just, before I yield back to you, Councilor Borde,
Sure.
he mentioned it briefly. Any of these items can be brought back for reconsideration, but you have to have the votes ahead of time. So we can move to return things, we can move to reconsider, but you need to have people from the prevailing side make the motion, and you need a majority to do that. So it's not that the door is closed, it's just that I would say the door is not closed on this. As far as that goes. Do you wish the floor again, Councilor Borde? I'll restart the timer.
Yes. So I guess my question is, we don't know what the future brings and what can hold. Something could come out 5 years, none of us could be on the council. So I just wanted to make sure that, things do pop up and information does become available later. I kind of typed up a possible motion, but before I type it into here, I want to make sure it's not similar to anything else so I don't waste my time. With something to the effect of the town of Groton would like to move forward with coastal access via the town attorney in the Fort Rachel area as per the coastal access plan of 1990 and 1991 until such time any new information on deeds, boundaries, and right-of-ways come to light if such event should occur. Would that leave it kind of in a place where it's leaving it open for more information if things were to come in that area?
Okay, I did not catch the last part, and I'm not sure that the attorney heard it either, but the beginning of it sounded identical to what we ruled out of order. So could you please read the last part? And we need to find out if it's enough of a distinction, but the beginning sounded pretty identical to what we've already been through.
Right, but it is identical because you're rewording what you're trying to do. So I guess the end.
Read the last part of your motion, please.
Yeah. Which part would you like me? The 1991
The part that you're saying is different. So whatever part you're saying is different because everything else is the same.
Okay, until such time that any new information on deeds, boundaries, right-of-ways come to light, if such event should occur.
I'm not an attorney. We'll start with that. Attorney Callahan, the language does not seem clear. Until such time means we're going to keep going until something else happens, is the way I'm interpreting that. Could you type that in, please? Could you commit that to writing, please?
Yeah, I heard you. I'm working on that. Thank you.
Thank you. And then we'll wait to hear from, once the attorney has a chance to read it. But the way, unless I didn't hear it correctly, it sounded like we're going to keep moving forward with the attorneys in the litigation until new information comes about, is what I heard. And that could be incorrect. Maybe I heard that wrong. I do have Councilor Franco and Baumgartner in the queue once we're done with first-time speakers, just so you know, I'm not ignoring.
You can go ahead and go on to them and I'll type it in because it's an eyesight thing for me to transfer. So it's going to take me a minute. So you can move on.
I'd rather not, just for procedural purposes. Mr. Burt, while we're waiting, did you capture the text that was over here in the chat menu?
The two motions?
Well, they weren't, yeah, the motions.
Well, yes, yeah, I did capture them. I'm putting them in a separate Word document that I'll send to Lisa.
Thank you. I didn't grab them, so I was hoping you had. The reason why I'm waiting is because if this motion is in order, I don't want to jump out of sequence and go to other people who may also put things on the floor. So that's why I prefer to wait and see what happens. It may not be in order, in which case then we'll move on, but I do want to give that opportunity. Okay, it is here in the chat now. Mr. Burt, I take it you're going to grab that again as well. And Attorney Callahan, would you mind just reading that over and giving your opinion on this as to whether, yeah, it does say until such time. So your legal interpretation of what that means would be appreciated, please.
Yeah, so in reading the motion, I do agree with you, Madam Mayor, that it reads as if we're going to continue on a path until something occurs in the future, and I don't know that that's the intent, but that's how it reads.
And it's essentially the same motion that we've had that's failed, correct?
Yes, I think substantively it's the same as a motion that has failed.
Okay, so the motion is out of order.
So can I speak to it still? I had a question about
Well,
it.
it's not on the floor, but I think you have 36 seconds left of your time if you'd like to speak.
So my question is that this is basically just, I mean, I don't understand how it'd be out of order if it's just stating that if new information was to come, then at that time we would then pursue the avenue of looking into it to, you know, currently what we're doing. We've been looking at Fort Rachel, trying to figure out what's going on. So this just keeps the door open that if something was to occur or new information was to come to light, that one would continue. So I don't understand why that wouldn't be allowed, I guess I don't understand.
Okay, and your time is up now. Thank you. So is there anyone else who hasn't spoken yet? If not, we will go to second time speakers.
So I can't have the answer to my question though before moving on, point of order?
Point of clarification, Councilor with an SELOR, Attorney Callahan already provided your answer that that's essentially the same motion. And so therefore I am ruling it out of order because it is the same motion. All right.
We are asking for another question to that. And so you're not.
Councilor Borde, your time is up and there are other people who have been waiting to speak. I also need to go to see if any of the other councilors who haven't spoken yet would like to.
I have a right to have another answer to my question. He didn't say that, you're saying that. So can I actually have him respond, please?
Councilor Borde,
okay,
Attorney Callahan answered your question. We are moving on to other councilors.
Okay, I disagree. Point of clarification.
You're out of order, Councilor Borde. You don't have the floor any longer.
But I'm asking for a point of clarification.
You're out of order, Councilor Borde. Councilor Melendez or Councilor Parker, did you wish to speak before I go to second time speakers?
No, thank you.
No,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Zaperi, you have not spoken. You've only raised objections. So did you wish to speak, sir? If not, I will go to the second time speakers.
I think that this hubbub that we're raising over the Fort Rachel property and the right of way there is grossly unfair. There's a business established there. We will interfere with that business. That business owner is a taxpayer in the town of Groton. I think there is very little to be gained by extending the right of way beyond the gazebo that we already have. And there's very little to be gained for people who want to see the sights of the coastline And this seems to be an attack on the individual who owns the property. I think this
Point of
whole
order.
thing.
Point of order.
Point of order. Point of order.
Wait a second.
Not fair.
Yeah, it is fair. It's what we're
Counselor-
doing.
Point of order.
Hold on, you're
Point of
all out of
order.
order at this point. Excuse me. Councilor Baumgartner, I heard your point of order first before I could get unmuted. What is your point of order? Councilor Baumgartner, did you raise a point of order?
Absolutely.
Go ahead, sir.
Questioning our character and motives. Unacceptable.
What?
Point taken, Councilor Baumgartner. Councilor Perry, please refrain from questioning the motives of the councilors. Thank you.
What we're doing is grossly unfair to that property owner and to the use it is now. And we have very little to gain for the people of Groton by pursuing it. I think it's time to move on to other issues. It's not appropriate at this time to consider the coastal access to the north of the Fort Rachel property because that's not on the agenda. But I think that's something we could consider at a future meeting. But right now, I think we've really beat this Fort Rachel property to death. And I think it's time to move on.
Okay, 1 second, please. All right, so everyone has spoken or had the opportunity to speak once. So we're going to go back to second time speakers. And we have, I had in order Councilors Franco, Baumgartner, and I see Councilor Aubrey has her hand up. Give me 1 second, please. So it's Franco, Baumgartner, Aubrey. Okay, Councilor Franco, you have the floor.
Thank you. I would like to notate that this is not something that was decided overwhelmingly. It is something that was a tie. It was 4-4. We had a councilor who was not present who was able to speak her mind on the motion that was on the floor. I understand that there are parliamentary rules. I completely understand that, but also as I have brought up parliamentary rules before, I was told I was playing parliamentary gymnastics. So what I think is the proper thing to do is allow the motion to come to the floor, let us vote on it. Because if it does fail and nothing goes forward tonight with the additional councilor present, which we had asked to postpone this originally to allow her to be present, it will just sit there. And we will not be able to bring it back up for at least, I believe, 6 months without a consensus of 6 councilors. And after that, if anything does come to light, it will be brought back after the 6 months without having to have the consensus of 6 councilors. Though, I think at this time, it would be prudent to allow the councilor who was not present at our last meeting to actually vote, to have her say, and she will sway this one way or another and put it to rest. And I would ask our council to please allow that, to bring it forward, allow the councilor who was not present to vote and be finished. So I plead to my other councilors who were opposed to this motion to bring it to the floor and allow it to be voted on. Thank you.
I need to address that. This council did not deny anyone a right to vote. People leave a meeting when they choose to leave.
Point of order. It's not a this isn't conversation.
I am clarifying.
You don't have to rebut me every time I speak.
Councilor Franco?
Is this your time?
I am correcting the record because what you said is not.
I don't get to correct the record when I want to.
You're not the mayor.
Whoa, here we go.
We are moving on to Councilor Baumgartner. Let me start the timer, Councilor Baumgartner. You have the floor, sir.
Yes, I have a question for the town attorney.
Go ahead, sir.
Attorney Callahan, is there any motion that can be read that includes the language court resolution or or declarative judgment?
With respect to the Fort Rachel matter, in looking at the previous motions, unfortunately, they referred to those topics and they failed. And because the vote failed, I think unless there's a motion to reconsider those motions, I don't think you can bring it back up again for, I believe it's a period of 12 months.
Yes.
So you would need a vote of 6 to pass a reconsideration, or you'd have to wait another 12 months.
Thank you, Attorney Callahan. And given the reasons that Councilor Franco just cited, I think that is the most prudent course of action. So I will make a motion for reconsideration.
And Borde along.
Excuse me. First of all, we need to know which motion you're moving to reconsider, and then we need to go back and look at the vote and see which side you fell on with the vote. Hold on one second, please. First, pick a motion.
My motion, Madam Mayor.
Which one was that, Councilor Baumgartner?
The town of Groton would like to move forward with coastal access via the town attorney in the Fort Rachel area as per the coastal access plan of 1990 and 1991 through a declarative judgment.
Okay, now the next thing we need to do is find out if you're on the prevailing side with that motion. So I need to find the vote. Just give me 1 second. If anybody finds it before me, let me know.
He was not. Page 14, bottom of the page.
Point of order.
Hold on. I asked for assistance. If you find it, find it. I got to go back there because this doesn't have the page numbers on it. Page 14. So it was a tied vote. So, oh boy. So the motion failed. So no one was on the prevailing side. Is that correct? I think that's correct.
Both sides shouldn't matter.
Point of order.
Both sides failed. Both sides on that motion failed.
I
So,
don't think so.
Point of order. Point of order.
excuse me,
Point of
1
order.
second, please. Attorney Callahan, if it's a tie motion, it fails. Is there a prevailing side with a tie motion? I think both sides have failed, so how can that be reconsidered?
Yeah, I would interpret it as the party who moved for the motion failed because they did not get a sufficient amount of votes.
Okay, so the party that moved that motion is on the failing side. So therefore then you cannot move that be reconsidered because you were not on the prevailing side. Councilor Franco, what is your point of order?
People are speaking without having the floor.
Councilor Borde, let me reset the timer though, please. Give me 1 second to reset this. All right, go ahead.
On page 20, it says that there is no evidence of a highway being established over the property by either the legislature or a court. There is no evidence of a deeded grant of a highway or underlying land or roadbed by the property owner to the town. There's only reference to a highway as an exception to the title to the property. The attorney said several times that he feels that this is not a position to take on Fort Rachel. I'd like to move that we would review the coastal walkway right-of-way from the bridge to Fort Rachel, not to include for Fort Rachel. Legal review to continue review of property rights would be on both sides of present area of right-of-way.
I'm gonna need you to commit that to writing, please, Councilor.
All right, but that'll be the end of the meeting before you ever get it. I'll try, but I'm not a typist.
So we can't move on until we have that, because I don't want to go to other council, just as I said earlier, just to keep the process in order, please. So if you could just type that into the chat there, and Mr. Burt will capture it. I'm going to pause the timer at this point while you go ahead and type that in.
John, feel free to correct my spelling.
My only concern, this is an item on Fort Rachel. So if this is a motion that does not have to do with Fort Rachel, it is not in order. So make sure, I don't recall what you said.
No, it does not include, it says to the entrance to Fort Rachel. I'm not including it. Is that all right?
Well, technically this is about Fort Rachel. So,
Okay.
so then that would be not pertinent to the item on the agenda. You could, one way around this, if the councilor so desires, would be to ask for a referral, given the language that I think you stated. I think you stated coastal access up to Fort Rachel, if I'm not sure if that's what you said, and I don't want to put words in your mouth.
No, that's what I said.
You could ask for a referral for a new item to come onto the agenda. And I think you would have the two other counselors that you would need to get that referral placed on a future agenda. But I don't want to put words in your mouth, so you need to make the referral, but it's not a motion, so.
All right, I'll just, Richard, legal review to continue. And INCLUDIN. Okay. I'd like to move.
So you're making a referral?
Yeah.
And for a new agenda item?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
To review coastal walkway rights from bridge to entrance to Fort Rachel. Legal review to continue, including both sides of right-of-way.
Okay, so that's your referral that you would like to come before the council. And I believe the rules right now say that we can, as a consensus, agree to place this on a future agenda, or you can go ahead and email it to everybody, let everybody read it, and at that point then get two other counselors who wish to continue with this referral, and at that point then it would be placed on an agenda. Is there any objection from the council to place Councilor Obre's referral? Would you like to say it one more time, Councilor Obre, so that they can hear it?
To review coastal walkway rights from bridge to entrance to Fort Rachel. Legal review to continue, including both sides of right-of-way.
So is there any counselor that objects to having this as a new referral?
Excuse me, could that be reread again? What was that about the legal aspect?
Leave this in writing.
Yeah, we need, it's a referral, not a motion. But if there is objection, it sounds like there's concerns with it. So then, Councilor Obre, I would say if you put it in writing and you email it to us, at that point, then we can, you can seek your support for your referral to have this brought forward. So there are objections unless you want to, counsel, do you wish to take the time now to let her put the referral in writing so we could come to a consensus right now? Is that the wish of the council? Are you content to have her just send it in an email? I'm sorry.
Respond. I'm not sure how we're supposed to respond.
So do you want her to type this now so we could come to a consensus right now and say, yes, that's a referral? Or do you want her to just put it in an email, send it out, and we could decide later if we want it?
Yeah, that would be a good thing to do.
They put it in writing in an email?
Yes.
Okay, I'm seeing nodding for in writing in an email.
I second
Okay.
that.
So, all right, so we have 3 counselors that would like you to commit that to writing and send it in an email, please, to the rest of the council. And this is looking for a referral. So this would be a whole new agenda item, guys. This would not be the same Fort Rachel agenda item. So we would not be constrained by the language of this particular agenda item. This would allow us to delve into other things. Councilor Aubry, we will look for that email from you. And
Who do I send it to? Because I don't have a joint email. I don't have a,
you can send it to either Mr. Burt or myself, and we will forward it to the entire council. Or you can send it to Ms. Hilton. Either one of the 3 of us, and we will get it to everybody.
all right, well then I'm gonna, okay,
Or you could use the council@groton-ct.gov. I'll type that one here for you.
why did I start this?
Hold on one second. Okay, so that email that I just typed in the chat, that will go to Ms. Hilton. And then she disperses anything that comes into that council email, she sends to everybody. It becomes public record and she sends it out to all. So that's an easy way. If you just use that particular email address, that's sure that it's going to hit everybody then.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, great. All right, let me reset this because we have Councilor Aubry will be seeking support for a referral to, I'm trying to get my timer back to where we can start. Councilor Aubry will be sending an email requesting a referral to continue the discussion of coastal access, not constrained to only Fort Rachel. Okay. I see no other hands. Oh, Councilor Baumgartner, you waited until I said I see no other hands.
Thank you,
Go ahead.
So I just want to be clear in understanding that technically we can't offer any motion tonight that is germane to Fort Rachel because we've already voted on all possible motions previously.
Trying to pause and unmute at the same time. So no, I mean, there's an infinite number of motions, but you can't keep offering the same motions where the bulk of the motion or the general idea of the motion has been brought forward and failed, right? So what Councilor Aubry has done is she's given you kind of an out, right? So we can come back.
I respectfully, I was hoping the town attorney would provide, an answer to that.
Very good. I will defer to Mr. Callahan.
You can raise another motion about Fort Rachel. It just can't be substantially similar to the one that have failed in the past. So, if you can present a motion that is substantially different, then you can consider it.
So again, though, if we would like to have any form of court resolution or going into the direction of the courts, that we've exhausted that entirely, you're saying. And if that's the case, why is it that our council was not informed of this prior to the setting of today's agenda?
There is nothing unusual about how this is being handled. This is part of the rules. You can't keep bringing back the same motions that have failed once. So this is not anything new. You have time remaining, Councilor Baumgartner. Do you wish to use it?
Absolutely. And again, this would be moot if there was a vote for reconsideration by this council. And I've indicated and if I need to do a motion and put it into writing for reconsideration, is that something we can do tonight? Is that something we can do at the previous meeting? Again, we have 9 councilors here. We did not
Matt,
previous meeting. So I would like to, again, lay this issue to rest. We have deliberated on this issue nearly every other week, which is a great thing. We've brought a huge spotlight onto coastal access issues. Now there's a big focus on it, not just here, at Fort Rachel, but across the town and city. So that is promising, and I hope we continue having these discussions about coastal access in the future. But the fact of the matter is we have 9 councilors present. We've been deliberating on this time and time again and have had very earnest, straightforward, and honest conversations about the direction of coastal access. It can go either way. I say, let's just put it to a vote. People have been following this issue very closely. It's been reported on in the newspaper. We owe it to the public to give them an answer. Even if we're not, I may not be on the prevailing side. And as disappointed as I would be, that's all right. But let the entire council speak. Respectfully.
Again, no one has prevented the council from speaking. People leave meetings when they choose to leave meetings. Councilor Parker, you haven't spoken yet. You have the.
all right. I'm going to bring up at least 3 issues. One, it is in our rules. It's also in Robert's rules. If the council decides to go the rule that we're going to make sure we have all 9 councilors there, then that means we have to go back and review all our other issues that we've brought forth where we did not have 9 councilors. For instance, on January 5th, 2021, I was not present at that meeting. Are we going down the path of all of us have to be at the meeting and then we have to reconsider everything at that time? That might open up a different can of worms. 2, the prevailing side, as part of the rules committee, we decided that agenda items, if they fail or move forward, or we've decided on them, that there's either six votes for and wait a year. So are you suggesting that we change our rules that we just completed in order to make it so that all 9 councilors are able to vote? That does not sound very democratic, in my personal opinion, because like I said, you want to have everyone there. That's going to be a problem. People have to leave for a meeting or cannot attend a meeting. We have discussed Fort Rachel several times. The prevailing side, which is the ones that voted against it, would have to bring the topic up or for reconsideration. And I am not willing to do that for this. I do not want to go to court. I do not feel we should be spending tax dollars money on this. That could take years to decide on. Several years. And who's to say that it would go into the town's favor? That's all I need to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Councilor Borde, I think this will be your second time on this agenda item. You have the floor.
That would be correct. Is that appropriate or is that?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Because you said second time and I was just curious.
Yep. I'm just tracking for everybody so that they're keeping
Okay.
track.
Perfect. So, I mean, I think tonight, I think we need to do something. I feel like waiting. I think, if we're going to have a few people that are going to agree to come forward at another council date and with a new motion, then let's vote on that tonight, like before the public's eyes. I think I personally am more in favor of more transparency. And I think we should, if we're going to change, how we're going to approach this and put it to words, someone put it to word tonight, like throw up that next agenda item now and let's vote on it. Let's not wait for it to get sunk down an email and wait another week and wait. Let's put that forward before the public's eye tonight. I think all motions should personally go that way, in my opinion. And if we have the opportunity tonight, if it takes a little extra time, let's commence it to writing. I mean, if there's another counselor that might be faster than me with my eyesight, because I don't have anything prepared, but I think we should, do it tonight. And I think that would be very important. And we've been at this for a while, and I think it speaks volumes to have that done. As far as the written motions that were presented at the other meeting and everything being similar, and then let's move forward with getting a different agenda item so that we can discuss it in its entirety at a later date. And let's vote on that at least tonight. Thank you.
So Councilor Borde has committed it to writing, and it was the desire of the council to have her send that referral, not a motion, a referral to the rest of the council for the council's review. So that has been done already. Councilor Borde, you've spoken twice on this item already.
Do I have a couple of seconds?
Technically, no.
Oh, wait, that's fine. I'll wait. No problem.
Thank you. All right. So we have a referral that you will be receiving on the issue of coastal access. And we will watch for that in our mailboxes from Councilor Borde. And just please indicate your support or not support for that item. And we will get that on the agenda as soon as we can. All right, we are moving on to 2019-457, 6 excess property redevelopment. And we have with us this evening, I believe Mr. Bronk is here with us tonight. And we have several guests that are here. Mr. Bronk, I'm not sure, is Mr. Reiner here as well?
Yes, I am at the meeting.
Hi, Mr. Reiner, thank you for joining.
Hello.
Is Ms. Jones with us as well?
She's at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting right now.
Thank you. And then would you like to introduce your guests, sir?
Sure. So Paige and I can give a very brief overview.
1 second, I'm sorry. I got to flip to the right page. I think we might need, hold on, too many papers. We do need a motion. So this will be Councilor Parker, please. And this is on page 30. It begins on page 36. It runs over to 37.
And this is 2019-457, if I'm correct?
Yes,
Okay. I make a motion to recommend a resolution authorizing the town manager to sign the option agreement and execute all documents required for the closing of the property and refer the matter to the RTM. I so move.
Second, Zafiri.
Moved by Parker and seconded by Zafiri. Okay, now, Mr. Reiner, I'm sorry. Thank you for your patience. You may have the floor, and if you'd like to introduce your guest and give us the background, give the public the background on this item, please. Thank you.
Sure. So Paige Bronk and I will kind of work on this together, but we have a number of members from Lennar Development team here tonight. They're going to give a brief presentation on their company and what their intention for the site is. But we've been working on this property, the Gold Star Highway property.
We lost your sound, Mr. Reiner.
Oh, I'm back now.
Okay.
We marketed this property, released an RFP, went through a formal review process, entered into an option agreement with PJ&A Development Company, and we're actually they've brought a different developer to the table. So that's why we're bringing this back to the council, as well as we had the public hearing for this property last month and need to still refer this property to the developer. The vision for this property is still a multifamily housing development. And I think, Paige, I don't know if there's any more you want to weigh in on this site. You know, we've talked about this property quite at length over the past couple of years before we hand it over to the Lennar team and introduce them.
I'll just make a couple comments. As John said, we've been involved in this for quite a while. The unique component of this project is that the abutting property owner to the town property was the one who responded to our RFP and envisioned a much larger residential project. That abutting property owner also acquired another private parcel. So now we have 2 private pieces of property and 2 town-owned pieces of property, 4 lots as an aggregate to create this unique opportunity on the Gold Star Highway. As things have moved forward, they've been looking for the correct partners to actually implement the quality project that they envision, the multifamily project, and ultimately Lennar is that entity that they have partnered with. So I think it's important to understand the history and how we've gotten to where we're at this point in time, but the use and the caliber of the project is exactly where it needs to be at this point in time.
Thank you.
I also want to make one other point just in attendance. So Bill Sweeney was at the beginning of the meeting, the attorney representing PJ&A. He also is on the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting right now. So he was trying to juggle kind of both of those.
All right, very good. Do your guests wish to speak right now, or should we open this to counselors?
So our guests do want to speak. So from the development team, I know that Will Cannon, Greg Ballou, Mike Rosas are all on the call. And I believe that Will Cannon was going to share his screen and give a presentation briefly on Lennar development.
Very
Thanks,
good.
Jonathan. Yeah, and this is Greg Ballou speaking. I'm the divisional president for LMC. I was actually going to give the initial overview of LMC, and then I'll let Will and Mike discuss details of the project. So anyway, good evening to the mayor and councilors. Thank you all for giving us some time this evening. Just tell you a little bit briefly about LMC. So LMC is Lennar Multifamily Communities. We are a wholly owned subsidiary of Lennar Corporation. Lennar Corporation is the largest home builder in the United States with a presence all over the country. It's a $24 billion company. LMC is a subsidiary, has been around for now, I think around 9 years, and we are now ranked as the #4 largest apartment developer in the country. We have 16 offices around the country. We have excellent capital relationships. We have our own capital. We do a lot of our business through our own internal private equity fund. We also have relationships with a lot of the top private equity investors all over the country as well. Yeah, this is just a few statistics on, just kind of size-wise who we are, which I just touched on a lot of these points, but we've developed over 28,000 apartments all over the country since inception. And yeah, this is just a chart showing our ranking as the #4 largest apartment developer. In terms of our local operations, on the screen right now are just some images of some other similar type projects that we've done in other parts of the country. My division covers Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania as well. And our region is actually one of the newer regions, but in our region, we just to give you some examples of projects that we've either completed recently or currently working on. Well, if you could flip that slide. The project on the left, the Lively, is a 180 unit apartment building that we just finished construction on and finished leasing in the spring of this past year. That was in Jersey City, New Jersey. The Smith is in Stamford, Connecticut. That's 414 units in a 16-story building, and that will start delivering first units in the summer of this year. Then on the following slide, it shows another large project that we're currently under construction on in White Plains, which is called the Mitchell, and it's 434 homes. So we do a blend of both more, dense urban high-rise type product, along with more traditional garden style 3- and 4-story type development. All of our development is very high quality, top notch, top of the market. We have our own management company. We also have our own internal construction group, although most of our projects, we actually hire third-party general contractors to build, but we do generate a number of jobs in the process of building our projects, and also do generate a number of permanent jobs in terms of our ongoing property operations. So with that, I'll turn it over to Will and Mike to go through details on the project and answer any questions.
Thanks, Greg. And here on the screen, we have a conceptual site plan for the site on Gold Star Highway. We're planning for around 300 market rate apartment homes spread across 12 buildings. There's sufficient room for parking for all of the units. In addition, we have a 5,000 square foot clubhouse with a leasing and management offices, a fitness area, community lounge, various other amenities planned for that community, such as the outdoor pool deck with barbecue grilling stations, outdoor seating, all for the community residents. As far as what we're planning the community to look like, here are a few conceptual renderings, although at this early stage it's subject to change, but just to give an idea of the type of building that we're looking to construct here. And that's all we have.
Okay. Did the planning and development staff wish to speak anymore? Mr. Burt, did you want to add anything?
I don't have anything.
Okay. Mr. Reiner, are you all set? Mr. Bronk?
I think I'm all set.
Okay, very good. Then I will throw it open to counselors, and I need to scroll through here with the screen sharing. It's hard to see if anyone has their hand up. There we go. Thank you very much. That makes it a lot easier. All right, do counselors have questions for the development team or town staff regarding this particular item? And there's somebody in attendees. Councilor Bordelon, and then I think I saw Councilor Aubry.
Yes.
Okay, Councilor Bordelon. You have the floor. You're muted though, Councilor Bordelon.
First, I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming. What a great presentation. And it's great to see development and interest in Groton, and it's long overdue, and it's definitely welcome. I'm trying to, I guess my first question is probably for town staff. What is the assessed property value of the land that we would be looking at?
Current assessed value?
Correct.
I don't have the.
I know here it says basically it has to go to RTM over 10,000, but I'm just curious, what is the property value assessed at?
I don't have the assessed value at hand, but the latest appraisal we did of the property had it at about $240,000. I can, if you hold on a minute or two, I can look for the current assessed value.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And then my question to the developers are, I think some of the things that I like to follow is, a lot of things start west and come east. And I know out west, they're doing a lot with kind of mixed economic space where you're going to have your higher income levels and then your middle and some moderate incomes. Is there any thought on bringing in any mixed living in that respect? There's a lot of properties being developed in the town of Groton. And one of the things that I feel we're lacking in this town is affordable housing, especially with the current crisis that we have. And one of the, models that I've been reviewing is looking at a way to have that mixed living where the community can rely on each other. And so you might have the same apartment, but it might have different amenities, maybe better features like countertops or something, but decreased value to make it
remaining.
Thank you. More affordable. So is there any thought into any affordable housing mixed in with this?
I can take that initially, Councilor. Currently, the product that we are developing is intended to be, I would say, affordable to a larger swath of the population than most of the product that we typically develop. And what I mean by that is that oftentimes we find ourselves developing in more denser urban environments where we're developing high-rise buildings, which are, as you could probably understand, very expensive to build. In contrast, these are much more economical buildings to build because they are effectively low-rise, 3-story buildings, no elevators, and they have surface parking. In other words, you do not have to construct parking garages or anything else like that, which really inflate the cost. So as a consequence, the rent that we are charging is intended to be, as I stated, attainable to a larger swath of the population. In terms of having specific units designated as affordable housing, which would be substantially, less rent than the remainder of the apartments. Right now, we are not contemplating that. When we look at those types of arrangements, those usually come along with tax incentive packages so that the project is economically feasible. When you start mixing in, a lower group, or a lower rent group of apartments, obviously it impacts the economics, and then oftentimes the deal does not make economic sense. So as of right now, probably a very long-winded way to answer your question, saying we currently don't have any designated affordable units in this community.
Thank you. And then my last caveat to that was, what type of environmental features are you doing to support the carbon neutrality, as well as looking at being much greener in the future? As new buildings come into town, we need to be looking at the broader picture, right? This is a building that's going to be around for quite some time. We can kind of excuse the old buildings and try to get them up to code, but what types of things or features are you intending to have that's going to support our environment? Thank you.
Sure. So LMC is dedicated to sustainability and utilizing as much in the, sorry about that, utilizing as much in the way of sustainable building techniques as we can incorporate into our projects. In fact, Will Cannon and I, who's also on this call, are actually chairing sorry about that. Chairing the sustainability committee for our entire company, where we're looking at ways to incorporate sustainability into all of our various projects. So the current building codes have come a long ways in recent times, so that it actually all of new construction is very high performing in terms of insulation, our values in windows and insulation, higher efficiency HVAC units, and oftentimes we're locating in areas where commutes are shortened due to being close to transit or being close to employment centers. So we do look at a number of building features as well as where we're located. So that's always a focus of the projects that we build.
We're very early in the design, but we'll definitely consider the environment when we're picking our appliances and everything else to, consider the environment.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Even some thought of solar, even for that rec building, maybe running it off of solar or some type of solar energy, or solar lights for the parking lot, just really kind of honing in on all those things. Thank you.
And Councilor Aubry, I did see your hand, but Mr. Reiner raised his hand, and I'm not sure if you wanted to speak in response to that, sir.
Yes, I just wanted to answer a couple of quick questions. So there are two properties here, 529 and 517 Gold Star Highway. The current assessed value on those are $52,500 and $315,000. Now, keeping in mind that those are both currently owned by the town and not paying any property taxes, whereas once this is built and developed, it'll be paying a substantial amount of property taxes. And I did want to just quickly touch upon the affordable housing question. So currently the town of Groton has 21% of its year-round housing stock is affordable housing. That doesn't mean that all of our housing needs are met, but when we're thinking about the state's goal is that 10% of all housing in a community be affordable. We have more than double that. So we have done a very good job of meeting that goal. I think there's always more to do on that. One of the main focuses that we've been doing with some of these excess properties is focusing on the need of both our market workforce need, our workforce housing, and the empty nesters. So that's something that a lot of our research and items that we've brought up to the council, the market analysis have really brought up as a big need in the town of Groton. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reiner. Councilor Aubry, did you have your hand up?
Yes, I had two questions, if I might.
Go for it.
I apologize. I've been kind of going through here. What was the price that was offered for the property? Does anybody know?
Give me 1 second.
I can comment on that if you'd like.
Okay.
Thank you, Paige.
The agreement is to sell the property for $228,000.
Okay. And the other quick question I have, it's just procedure, and I apologize before I even ask it, but I was wondering why this was done differently than the other properties that the town is selling.
How so?
Well, with the school properties, we've had a process that the members have been involved in the interviews and so forth prior to presentation. And in this case, we haven't been involved at all. And I'm just wondering why the difference.
So actually this property, and Paige can give you the exact details, but this one dates back to our earliest, this was I believe our first RFP that we released. There were interviews. I believe a council member was involved in that process, but we're going back at least a couple, if not a few years on that, of how this one has progressed. Paige, do you want to give a little more detail on that?
Sure, that is true. It was our first RFP. We were approached regarding our property at that time, which somewhat prompted us to issue the RFP. We had several that had submitted, and ultimately we had selected this particular developer, and then it evolved from there. There were a lot of things that happened. As I mentioned before, they acquired that additional private piece of property that came after the selection, and then there were a variety of partners that had looked at the property, but the desire to create this multifamily use has been consistent throughout, even though we've had a few different players. So you're right, Councilor Aubry, it is a little different in that we didn't have that full-fledged committee for review, but it was the first one we did, and we have been to the council trying to update them as we've moved along regarding the progress of the property.
Yeah, I actually just found, so the original RFP went out in August of 2016. And I just found a memo to the previous town manager from October of 2016 requesting going to the council in executive session. So it was late 2016 that we actually discussed this property and a preferred developer with the council in executive session. So a little bit of a different process. And, as Paige said, we've been refining that process each time we move forward.
Councilor Aubrey, did you wish to continue with your time?
No, I'm fine. Thank you. Disappointed, but fine.
Well, that predates us. We
Yeah,
were 17, so this is something left over. I'm going to jump in and take my turn now. I'm going to start the timer here. That is 7:58. Thank you, gentlemen, for the presentation. I wasn't sure what was going to be on the property, so I noted with interest that some of your properties, your high-rise properties, had some retail on the first floor of the buildings. I see now that you're going to have more traditional apartment buildings. Are you considering any retail within your property at all? Any coffee shops, any, the one in Jersey City, I think it said it had a dance studio, anything like that for this property? And then the second question pertains, again, I'm in the strain of Councilor Bordelon's environmental aspects. Will you be looking at using pervious materials for the pavement? Will you be looking at trying to tie in to, I think there's an adjacent property that has some trails on it that one of our local conservation groups has title to, or perhaps we have title to and they just maintain it. I can't recall. But there's an adjacent property where there are some trails. Are you considering tying into that at all? And any trees that come down, have you considered replanting? I don't know if you can do one for one or anything like that, but these are things that are important to me. I'm very happy that the property will be developed, and I'm very happy that we will have housing to meet our workforce needs. But I also share some of these environmental concerns, and I would also love to see, if possible, a little coffee shop or something there so that people that are living there can get out and be on foot a bit, and maybe connect to those trails. And we're going to have an electric bike shop soon too. So if we can tie in with all of that, it would be wonderful. So I will give up the floor right now, stop the timer, and I look forward to your responses. Thank you.
To answer your second question and third question about the trails and the green area. So we're still very, very early on in the design. So incorporating things from other outside properties, we have not yet considered, but definitely good to know as we move on in our design. We are planning for a certain amount of outdoor green space, as much as the site allows us to, with our apartment buildings, surface parking for the residents, the clubhouse, and all of the amenity spaces. But aside from that, we are planning for a certain amount of green space. And then to answer your first question about the coffee shop, where we do not have any retail component currently planned for the property.
I would add on to that, though. However, as Will mentioned in his presentation, there is a 5,000 square foot clubhouse, and that effectively serves as a gathering place for residents. And they can rent it out for functions and parties, but also we typically try to program those with a lot of activities and provide areas for co-working where people may be able to come with their laptop and set up. We oftentimes will have coffee machines and free coffee for residents. So it does become kind of a hub for the community and for the residents. So in a lot of ways, it functions in the way that you're suggesting would be attractive here.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the responses. We are on to Councilor Baumgardner, and I will start the timer. Sir, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And thank you all for joining us this evening. And thank you, as always, Paige and John, for your work on behalf of the town. I was reading through the agenda item, and I saw that the town lists a certain set of criteria that the developer needs to meet in order to what I would assume, after they issue, the town issued their RFP, the developer has to meet a certain set of criteria in order to be selected as a preferred developer. And some of those criteria, I'm reading implementation of a quality development, including use, design, and function that will be an asset to the town. Completion of the project in a timely, planned, and well-executed manner. Development which is complementary in design to the existing and surrounding neighborhood. Management of traffic circulation. Retention of significant trees and implementation of a new landscape plan. Minimization of lighting impacts to adjacent properties, and recognition of the site's location within the watershed of a public drinking water supply, which will include a robust stormwater management plan, low impact development techniques. To echo what many of my colleagues have asked with respect to the impacts on the environment, just looking at the master or the sketch of the project, it looks like the development will go further back from what is already developed on site, or land that is already developed on site. So my question is, will there be any property acquisition or any, what will offset in the case if we were to move forward with this development? Will there be any kind of offsets so that if there are trees,
1 minute remaining,
tree coverage, trees, a reduction in trees, that we will have a net gain in trees elsewhere?
Thank you for the question. At this time, since we're still very early on in the design, we have not yet considered that, but we will definitely make note of that and consider it going forward.
Thank you.
you have time. Councilor Baumgartner, are you yielding the floor, sir?
And if anybody else wants to answer that, I'll yield my time to you if you want to take a stab at that question. But again, thank you everyone for the presentation and your work on this.
Thank you.
The one item I would just say is that many of those questions and concerns will come up at the site plan review process when this goes before the Planning and Zoning Commission. But all very good points. And those are things that we've reiterated with the developer numerous times about, meeting those standards.
Very good. All right, so I am looking for other first-time speakers before we go to the second round. Councilor Franco.
Hi, thank you for coming. I'm excited about this development, and I had a question is just to confirm, I believe I know the answers, but the exit will go into the intersection with a light, is that correct?
We're still looking at the most optimal solution there, whether it's at the light or farther down Gold Star Highway towards 95.
So it's at the light at...
We have not yet picked the exact location of the access to the site.
Okay, because I was just, I do know Mr. Bronk had said to have an intersection and have an entrance and exit with a light is like an optimum. It's very optimum for a development. So I was just curious about that. And how many kids do you think will be in this neighborhood?
I would say at this point, we, as part of all of our overall approval packages going forward, we would certainly provide studies from professionals that look at those types of questions. Our developments typically do not have a lot of 3-bedroom apartments, which are the unit types that typically generate more school kids than others. So consequently, we do not generally see a lot of school kids in our communities. But I would probably be remiss in trying to make any kind of guesses or estimates at this stage, since we don't know exactly what our unit mix is or anything else, but we're happy to provide all that information as we go forward.
And Councilor Franco, just to supplement Will's responses to your first question regarding the access point, it's something we're studying internally together with our traffic engineer, and also as we learn more about the actual topography of the site and the existence and location of rock, that as an option.
I understood. I just don't want to create too much of a other issues, that's all. Because 184 can be quite congested at certain times of the day, and the light would be optimal. And I just wanted to make sure that that's in, on the table. So thank you, and I'm very excited. Thanks.
Yeah, we understand and we agree. We are definitely looking for the optimal solution there. We don't want to create any kind of headaches for the traffic.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay. I need to check with other counselors to see if they wish to speak before we move on. So Councilor Melendez, Councilor Parker, Councilor Zaperi, do any of you wish to speak before we go to second time speakers?
I'm all set. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Councilor Zaperi?
With all due diligence and with all due diligence and with all due diligence and with all due respect and all due respect, I think we should go ahead.
Thank you. Councilor Borde, you have the floor.
Thank you. I just wanted to bring up, I know it's not something that can be decided now. I know when the other developer had come for us for the one over on Route 12, with the location of this property, which is great, located not too far from Pfizer, EB, close to Foxwoods, as well as Mohegan Sun, and it's kind of centrally located. It would be awesome if possibly a consideration for looking into shuttles to the Navy base, the EB, the Pfizer, as well as the casinos coming off this site, because it would also help to decrease the traffic and possibly could help not only the environment, but the location and congestion, but also might be a site seller to some folks that, the commuting aspect, be having that type of transportation on site or shuttling to and from these facilities. Just a thought. Thank you.
Are there any other questions for the developers or town staff? Okay, seeing none, we will vote on 219-457 excess property redevelopment 517-529 Gold Star Highway, authorization for sale and referral to RTM. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? So moved unanimously. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming out this evening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Productive project.
Have a great evening. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we are on to 5C. This is 2020. Just making sure I have everything in order. 2020 8561 Green Play and Peary presentation, Pratt Building reuse. This began on page 74 in your packet. And I believe we have Mr. Barry with us and Ms. Wolf and Ms. Copps. And was there another speaker? Is Mr. Locken here? Mr. Reiner, Mr. Bronk, are you staying for this as well?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Mr. Barry, do you want to lead on this, or Mr. Burt, do you want to lead on this?
I'll let
Yeah.
Barry.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You have the floor, Mr. Barry. Thank you for coming out and being with us tonight.
You bet. At the council meeting on January 5th, Green Play and Prairie presented conceptual designs of the Pratt Recreation Building. The conceptual designs were based on the feedback from a community engagement process that included focus groups, stakeholder meetings, and a community needs assessment survey. The survey asked residents for feedback on current and future needs in the community and specifically within the Pratt Recreation Building. Top priorities for the Pratt Recreation Building were swim, lap lanes, fitness areas, warm water activity pool, and group exercise rooms. Members of the council spoke in favor of keeping the auditorium and felt that it should be part of the conceptual plans. Lisa Wolf from Green Play and Melissa Kopp from Prairie Associates have prepared 2 proposals to perform additional examinations of the theater concept. They will be highlighting the 2 proposals and examining the difference between the 2 proposals. Additional analysis is essential to determine the impact to the Pratt Recreation Building project budget and building operations, with the council's desire to have the auditorium remain. Data from the additional study will help the council make an informed decision about the viability of a theater, understand future budget implications when the building goes online, and will be essential when the town begins to negotiate the TIF with the developer. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Lisa.
Great. Good evening, Mayor and members of council. There we are. Can you see me now?
Yes, thank you.
Great. Great to see your faces again. Thank you for the opportunity tonight to present to you what you have requested back on January the 5th in reference to the additional addendum and possibly an expansion of the scope for the Pratt facility regarding the auditorium. Basically, what we have done, and please share with me whether or not you have that scope as part of your agenda packets tonight, or have you read that and see that?
We have additional scope for the Town of Groton Performing Arts Theater feasibility study, and it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages.
Okay, all right. We should be on the same page then. So, forward with that. Okay, great. So as Mr. Berry had given you guys the explanation of where we are, you all are very familiar with where we are at this point in the final phases of the actual feasibility study. After the January 5th meeting, we heard loud and clear from you all, and upon your wishes to propose an additional addendum and scope for maintaining the auditorium as it is. So Melissa Copps and I will be, unfortunately, Laura Peary was not able to join us this evening. However, Melissa is part of her team and has been working with us diligently on the project as we've been moving forward. So with that, I will turn some of this over. We'll be tag teaming it, and Melissa will give an overview of some of the spatial considerations and as we move forward in outlining the scope.
Hi. So we want to express that we are happy to evaluate an option that provides a theater in the Pratt facility. And we feel it is important not to miss the opportunity to make sure that the theater facility will truly serve the needs of the community. In order to create a conceptual layout that includes a theater and is an apples to apples comparison with our previous options, we recommend spending some additional effort understanding the amenity needs of the town's theater community, just as we were able to do for the recreational needs. For instance, instead of adapting the recreational programs to the existing conditions of the pool, the town identified modifications that would be made to the pool to better serve their recreational program. Having experience designing and planning for the performing arts, the reason we have been calling the existing space an auditorium is that we would expect additional amenities in a theater. In fact, this space was originally designed as a school auditorium for the Mystic Oral School and was labeled as such on the Pratt Building's original 1974 construction documents. In a theater, we would expect amenities such as back of house support space, including but not limited to dressing rooms for the performers, more wing and fly space, shop space, and a lighting or sound booth. We feel that the town may want to add some of this support space as part of this renovation to create a truly functional space for the performing arts. We are happy to investigate this alternate option. And before we proceed, we want to remind the council of some of the implications for code, accessibility, and community connectivity we touched on in our last presentation. We understand that the town has high priorities for providing accessibility and community connectivity, so we are anticipating that this alternate concept will include additional square footage to create a street level entrance. To use this space as a theater type assembly occupancy and add square footage to the existing building as is necessary to accommodate other priorities, life safety code will require either that the structure of the entire building is fireproofed, including adding finishes to conceal and protect the fireproofing, or that the theater occupancy be fire separated from the rest of the building, including isolating the structure at that separation, creating two self-supporting structures. I'm happy to answer any additional questions you may have about the architectural implications of providing an option that includes a theater space in the Pratt Building renovation.
Thank you. Thank you, Melissa. I was going to go ahead back to you, Mayor, and really let you all ask any additional questions that you might have, provided that's outlined in the scope. If you would like to go through that, we are happy to review any of those questions in that addendum. However, based on the information that we've presented tonight and Melissa's explained, we're open for questioning.
Thank you. I just wanted to touch base with Mr. Barry and see if he wanted to add anything at this point.
No, the 5 pages that you have mentioned, I'm assuming that those are combined, and that is two different types of study. So I just want to make clear that there's two different studies. One has a few more tasks than the other, and I don't know if Melissa can maybe explain the differences between the two so that the council understands, what they think is best going to meet their needs if we move forward with the concept of a theater.
Thank you. That would be helpful.
Okay, one of the major differences between the expanded study versus the revised or lower cost study is that we eliminated evaluating the existing middle school space for the theater use. So we kind of imagine that we'd be having a work group and focus group meeting to really identify what the theater needs are. And then in the expanded scope, we look at that study and we evaluate the middle school and how it would be able to meet those needs. So that's one of the major differences. I don't know if Lisa has any further to add.
You're muted, Ms. Wolf.
Okay, sorry about that. I thought Melissa was finishing her conversation. I didn't know if it went to mute too quickly. Did you have anything else to add, Melissa, to that?
That's the major difference.
Right, okay.
Don't have anything to add.
Okay, I don't really have anything else to add, just the additional scope in reference to the getting more public input and information from your user groups.
Thank you. Councilor Zepari, and give me 1 second to record and start the timer, Councilor Zepari. All right, you have the floor, sir.
My impression from the last meeting we had was the council was fairly well together on the notion that we should preserve this Pratt Auditorium as a theater. And I don't know that we really need to do any kind of group study to see whether or not it would be utilized, or if it would be better to utilize the existing auditorium at the community center, the Fitch Middle School. I appreciate Melissa's comments on the distinctions between a theater and an auditorium. And I think if we want to develop this, if we really want to promote the performing arts in Groton, then we should have a theater. And that may include developing dressing rooms. As far as fireproofing is concerned, I would hate to think that we're offering a gymnasium type thing, or even a swim pool area that is not fireproof. We want it to be as safe as possible. So I'm not sure that we want to go ahead with studies to determine the utility of the theater. We've had people come forward to the council already to tell us that they would use that theater. And I think that there are a whole lot more. We just haven't made contact with them. I had made a referral to the council, and I'm disappointed it wasn't on the agenda tonight, but it was referred by me and endorsed by two other councilors to look into not only preserving the theater, but developing a commission, a performing arts commission, whose job it would be to determine what kind of programs and attracting programs to perform in the theater. I don't think there's going to be any problem. I think there are as many kids who are interested in performing arts as there are kids interested in playing football, basketball, baseball, and lacrosse and soccer. I think they need an opportunity, just as we're trying to give an opportunity to the young athletes. We should give an opportunity to the young thespians, the young vocalists, the young musicians, the young dancers. I think this is a great opportunity for the town, but I'd like to see us focus on not, oh my, maybe we shouldn't do this, but focus on how do we get it done? And that's my thoughts on the issue.
Thank you. Councilor Heed, let me just restart the timer, sir, and you have the floor.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I went on the tour of the Pratt building, and I kept in mind, I tucked in the back of my mind the presentation that we had 2 weeks ago, where it would have been primarily a Parks and Rec kind of a facility. And I want to play a little bit of devil's advocate, because I went there and I saw exactly what they talked about tonight. There's behind the actual stage, there is nothing. There's no place for changing rooms. There's no place for additional office space or anything. And it concerns me because, in the original proposal with Restler, that was going to be a theater because it creates all the synergies with like the local community. You drive in, you go to your theater, you stay for a while, have dinner right here in Groton. Whereas if you have it somewhere else, say at the middle school, they drive in, they go to the theater, then they go somewhere else for dinner afterwards. Because there's nothing to do at like the middle school location, right? So it's got its advantages to be a theater, but at the same time, I wonder how much, and this would be the question that I have for Mark Barry, is how much of an impact would this have on the ideas of what you were going to have if this had been, if this was the proposal that we were, like the original proposal, if we went with that versus making this a theater, what kind of impact is making this a theater going to have on your plans? If that makes sense.
Sure. So if the theater, under the current conceptual plans, the largest flexible programming space that we have would exist in the theater. There's also other uses designated for that theater space. So by keeping that space as a theater, we lose our largest flexible programming space. But there's a spillover effect, because what happens is those other uses that were included in the theater space now have to go someplace else. So we lose not only that space, but we potentially lose other space to facilitate those needs that were taking place in the theater. So it has a pretty large impact on what's going to take place in that space. And if you look at the survey results, the community said that they wanted more programs, and high priorities for them were programming space. So now we're about to lose a significant portion of what the community has said that they were interested in.
Councilor He, do you have time remaining? Are you yielding the floor, sir? Or do you wish to continue?
I will go ahead and continue for just a moment. You know, it struck me like, I'll just share a couple observations. So the theater itself is not really that large. It is much nicer than what you have at the Fitch Middle School, no doubt about it. But it's not a really big space. But when you look at the building, it kind of, especially like the entrance area in that little drop down ceiling in the middle that was previously going to be like the glass walkway across the top, it just, to keep that as a theater really impacts the design of the original conception. I'm not arguing against changing. I'm just saying that keeping it as is, it's kind of like the theater is on the wrong side. So it, you know, this is going to be a hard decision. That's all I'm saying. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Councilors Melendez, Aubry, and Bordelon. Councilor Melendez, you have the floor. I'll start the timer, sir.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I'm just actually struggling to understand the two charts. Is the top chart, is one chart the cost without converting it to a flex space, and the other chart is maintaining it as a theater?
I'm not sure. Ms. Wolf, will you take that, or is that?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm happy to. Are you speaking in reference to the addendum, the scope addendums?
Yeah, where it has like tasks 1 through 9 and then a price, and then 1 through 6 and a price.
Right. So I'm not sure which one, if you're looking at both of them, or basically the up above is just a summary of what's below. Is that what you're thinking of in reference to the question? So you've got you've got tasks 1 and 2 outlined in the chart, or the table, I guess you could say. And then below that are tasks 1 and 2 in much further detail.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Yes. No, I'm talking about like this one on the bottom here has total cost of revised scope 40,450, and then there's another one that has 9 tasks. It's 44,700 and 25,700.
So I can just address that. The one that is bigger includes evaluating the middle school. And the one that is on top is kind of, we took a look with the town to try to see how we could really kind of pencil in the least amount of effort to get to the apples to apples comparison with this new option versus what we've done before. And so originally we included some meetings with the city council to communicate findings, and there was just a little more developed program. So if you were to look at one program versus the other, one it has slightly less, it's less developed than the other one, but we still think it's kind of a minimum for what we would need to be able to address the needs to make a theater in the Pratt building.
Okay, so the total cost, all right, I guess it's still just kind of going over my head. So in the bottom one, the $40,450, that's the total cost of revised scope. That is the price that it would take to keep the auditorium as is and remodel whatever you have to, correct?
Yes.
Well, not the final plan. That's not construction. That's just to present a plan as part of the feasibility study.
Okay.
Can I jump in here?
Let me jump in for a second, please. We have several members of town staff that want to try to answer the question as well. I want to go back to Councilor Melendez when he's ready, but I see Mr. Reiner also has his hand up. So did you want to jump in, Mr. Reiner?
Yes, just very quickly. And so the purpose of these scopes is actually to then get a cost estimate. So we can compare apples to apples what will be the total cost of, I guess, what I'll call option A, what you reviewed 2 weeks ago versus what option B would be, to simplify things, which would take the auditorium space and convert it to a theater. It not only would look at the capital cost, but also so we can have an apples to apples comparison of what the maintenance and operation costs of that would be in addition. So that's really what we're driving at with this scope of service change, so we can understand what that cost is from a construction, maintenance, and operations. And a number of those things are important, especially as we get into, you know, the long-term cost of the building and how we negotiate with Respler through the TIF process for what we do with the property. And one other cost that I don't have an exact number on today, but Respler has indicated to us that there would be a substantial difference in parking of what would be required for a theater / auditorium versus the flex space because of the peak timing. And I did get an estimated cost on per parking spot in a parking garage at where they're proposing, because of the work they have to do, is going to be about $35,000 per spot. So just orders of magnitude. So those are all things we want to make sure that we're giving you the best available data so you can make an informed decision, not only for what you're looking for, but also from a cost perspective. Thank you.
Okay, so if I could just summarize, these are costs in order to, so you can give us data so that we can make a decision on what is best.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Borde, you have the floor. Let me just get the timer started. You have the floor, ma'am.
Okay, on page 75, is that what you were talking about, the numbers? Because I didn't see 44, I see 44.7. Is this the Prairie and the Green Play? Is this two different reports?
There are, if you scroll down, Councilor Borde, to page 78 is the second one that Councilor Melendez was comparing the two different charts.
Okay. Now, does one of them, I apologize for this. I probably should have had this all in my head, but I don't. I just lost my place. Sorry about that. Are we doing also an apples to apples between Fitch and Pratt?
And I think that's what the first chart, the beginning of the chart. So your original page that you were on, where it shows there are 4 columns and it has fee summary task 1 through 4. And then there's a column that says general management needs program test fits. There's another column that says Peary and one that says Green Play. And then you see $2 amounts at the bottom. I believe that is the one that will offer the comparison of renovating the community center auditorium versus the Pratt building. Is that correct? I saw some heads nodding.
Yes, that is exactly correct, Mayor. And I think we'll have to apologize. I didn't realize that you all had both documents. So we came back and we presented the main one at the lower cost, assuming that was what we were going to be mainly discussing. So yes, but you are correct in reference to the apples to apples.
Councilor Borde, you have time remaining.
Well, I don't object to a comparison. I mean, I want a theater. You know, is it more reasonable to work at Fitch or is it more reasonable to work at Pratt? I would love to know the answer. So I'm assuming that that's what we would get with this performing arts theater feasibility study. Are we going to get both?
And again, correct me if I'm wrong, but it depends which option we choose. So if we choose that first one, we will get exactly what you just asked for. If we choose the second one, they will just give you numbers for renovating the Pratt Theater. I think that's correct.
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah, I think some of the confusion might be around the fact that the first number isn't, there's no sum of the two, but add those numbers together on the bottom to get the total cost of the study, including evaluating the middle school theater.
I mean, as much as my main goal is I want a theater. I think we have an opportunity, but I think it would be not in good conscience to not compare both, see what would be the better option. I think that our draw would be better at the Pratt building, but if we were to do things in a certain way at Fitch and make it something that's comparable to what's at Pratt, maybe that's an opportunity also. And I don't think we can make a decision without the study of both. So that's what I would be in favor of.
Thank you. Okay, we are on to, give me a second. We are on to Councilor Borde. You have the floor.
Thank you. I don't know. I guess for me, I'm about studied out. I think we spend so much money studying things and not enough boots on the ground building anything. With that being said, no disrespect. I think this is a great presentation. I feel we were late to the game here in deciding on the auditorium. I'm all for the arts, and I firmly believe we need to have an arts structure in here. It's interesting that now we have a Pratt building that's coming on board because of a development, and now we're thinking about the theater. Well, the theater has sat at Fitch Middle for I don't know how long. So here's my problem. First, it seems a little bit, I'm all for the recreation department making sure they have the most functioning facility in the town to serve our community at large, which should be something that the town should be thinking of that has not been thought of, obviously. But to put all of our eggs in one basket and presume a lot into a building that we're not going to own and that we're going to lease. Once again, that's not me saying I'm not for the development of the apartment complex. I'm speaking merely about the Pratt building. That to me is like our whole future of our rec program is based on a leased building that we don't own. And it seems that we should be moving in the direction to make sure that our assets are locked into something that we have control over and that we own. I understand that there is going to be a strong lease attached to this. But once again, let's remember the use of that and the existence, we do not know how long that's going to be. So I'm just kind of like, my hands are kind of thrown up in the air. I feel like now we're going to spend more money to study something. We have a middle school that's been sitting there in disarray for I don't know how long. It's been very slow to get anything done. 40,000 for this. Meanwhile, our sports field infrastructures in our town are way behind the curve, and our town needs to make repairs. I just feel like we're a little all over the map, and I feel that the rec department needs a strong facility. Thank you. Strong facility that has all the amenities and assets locked into it that the town owns and can maintain and flourish. My concern is with a 20, 30-year lease, in 30 years, we might be saying, what Pratt building? And where's the rec building now? And we didn't plan for it because now the lease is up and the direction of that facility went somewhere else. Is that the direction we want our rec facility to be in? Once again, I speak for the record, not in against the development, but merely in the fact that we're going to take our rec department and put it into a lease building with all our assets in someone else's pocket. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm seeing second time hands, so I'm going to take, well, I will yield to other counselors. So the other counselors who haven't spoken yet are Councilor Franco and Parker on this. Did either, or Councilor Baumgartner, did either or any of you three wish to speak before I speak? You're welcome to tap the floor.
No, thank you.
No, okay. Oh, Councilor, are you raising or waving?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Go for it.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Lisa and Melissa, for your presentation. I did tour the Pratt building with both Councilor Borde and Councilor Heed yesterday. All days are a blur right now. I apologize. I was blown away again by just how large that space is. And I know in your initial design, you had included flex space. My question to both the Green Play and Mark would be, how does this building augment future plans for what we're doing with, with the community center? And can there be some give and take? Obviously, we don't want to duplicate efforts, right? There's 2 auditoriums, but can one be used for a theater, another be used for a different theater, right? So I guess, how are we, when we're planning for Pratt Building, are we also kind of thinking about the impacts that we'll have on our, future planning with respect to the community center?
Mark, do you want to start? Or would you like me to?
No, I'm happy to start. I mean, that certainly has been something that we've been thinking about. And, quite honestly, neither one of those buildings meets all of the needs of the community. So, we don't see us pulling out of the community center and moving everything into the Pratt Building. And so, we're thinking about that. We see both operating in the future. Obviously, there's things at the Pratt Building that are not present and are available at the community center. I mean, to have the opportunity to operate a pool, which is the number one survey, the number one item that people were interested in based on the survey, that will create a great opportunity for us. So we are trying to look at providing complementary, not identical, but services that complement each other in both locations. Certainly the community center is a much better location for drop-in programming. It's centrally located in the community. It's near, closer to some of the schools. So we see that as a potential use, along with some other programs that are currently taking place there. So it's, we see the two complementing each other, and not, we certainly are not looking to try to duplicate services in both locations as best we can.
Councilor Baumgartner, does that answer your question?
Yes, I think so. But I think just given the feedback given by a lot of the other counselors, with respect to the theater, I mean, if we were to, have a theater at the Pratt Building, how would that impact, whatever plans are in place for the auditorium space at the community center moving forward?
Well, I'm not sure that we would have two auditoriums, two additional auditoriums. I mean, there are auditoriums both at the high school. I believe there's a black box theater at the new middle school. So I'm not sure that they're, certainly based on the community needs assessment, there was not a strong interest in all of the people that we surveyed in having one more auditorium. So I can't imagine that having two more auditoriums would be something that the public would support.
And lastly, or just briefly, will there be flex space or something to that effect at the community center?
Oh, we have flex space now at the community center. We take advantage of every square foot that we're given, and one class leaves and a different class comes in. There are certain limitations at that within that building, just given the fact that it was a school and not a recreation center. So, the Pratt Recreation Building will allow us to enhance and improve the services that we provide, and that was one of the results that came out of the survey, was that people wanted more programs and services. And the conceptual plan that Prairie and has put together best allows us to best meet the needs of the community.
Oh, thank you, Mark. And I did have a conversation with a few folks today I did not know, and I asked them what they enjoy about the town, and the first thing they said was our town parks and recreation. So thank you for all that you do and your team does.
Thank you. We have several councilors who have spoken once already that wish to speak again, but I want to give Councilor Parker and Councilor Franco the opportunity to speak first if they would like.
I'm all set. Thank you.
And Councilor Franco, did you wish to speak?
Not at this time.
Thank you. I'm going to take a turn and then we will go to second round for the councilors who have already spoken. Let me start my timer. Okay. And it is 8:48. I would argue that the survey, the people who took the survey were probably people that already used the rec programs in the town. And given that it was a Parks and Rec survey, you probably had most people that were interested in the Parks and Rec aspect of it. And having said that, it wasn't really an arts survey. We have seen and we've had people reach out to us that are very much interested from the arts community that would really like to see a theater in town. And the gentleman that was with us last time is working on convening a group of potential users for a theater that might come to fruition in the town of Groton. And he is doing some legwork and he is going to speak to us under citizens petitions at our council meeting next time. The second thing, and I understand Councilor Aubry's desire to consider the comparison between the Pratt building and the community center building. But pragmatically speaking, do you foresee, and I'm not asking you, this is a rhetorical question, money to renovate the community center anytime soon? Realistically speaking, we haven't even been able to get the parks offices up to the community center building. I don't see anytime soon that there's going to be the will or the money at this point to renovate the community center's auditorium. So pragmatically then, if we want a theater, I think we have to put our desires into having the Pratt building renovated, having the theater there renovated. So that's kind of the realist in me thinking, if we want a theater, I think this is the way we're going to have to go. I do like the location of it here. I agree with some of the things that Councilor Aubry and I think Councilor Heed had said about having the synergy of the shops and the restaurants and the apartments there and being able to interact with the theater and the different arts performances. So that's not to say though that I could not support Councilor Aubry's desire to evaluate both. So, but I just want us to keep in mind what we're talking about tonight is which of these two proposals do we want? That's what we have to decide tonight. And my time is up. So again, oops, I'm sorry. My timer's beeping. We have to decide tonight which of the two proposals we want. That's our goal here, okay? So we are back to second time speakers and we have Councilor Zepari for your second time. Then it will be Councilor Borde for her second time, and then Councilor Aubry. So Councilor Zepari, let me get the timer set again. All right, you have the floor, Councilor Zepari.
From age 8 on, I grew up in this community. And when I was a kid, there were some Little League opportunities for kids my age, but there wasn't anything else. There was no small midget football teams. There were no soccer teams, no lacrosse teams. Nothing else, and certainly nothing for girls. And if we wanted to play ball, we found an empty lot someplace and we brought our bats and our balls and our gloves. We put a rock in one place and another rock in another place, and we had bases. And we had a pitcher and a catcher and all the rest of that kind of stuff. And we did that then. But now, you know, since that time, we have blossomed, and there are organized sports for children in just about every sport. And our need for fields has multiplied, and the need for organized fields has multiplied because those teams have come into existence and they have need now to develop. There has been no such development in performing arts because having a theater is a much more difficult thing than just having a field. Here we have the opportunity to have a theater. I think if we decide that we want to go ahead with promoting performing arts in our community, we won't have any trouble using both theaters, both auditoriums, that at Pratt and at the community center. There are lots of kids out there that would like to get involved with this thing. They're not as aggressive maybe as the athletes, but they're there. And I think, and I also think we can bring in performers of a higher quality, of professional quality, to give performances at various times. I don't think there would be any trouble in using both theaters.
1 minute remaining.
Okay, and I would like to see us go ahead with the Pratt Theater. And with that in mind, looking at the proposals that we've seen, I would eliminate tasks 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I think 6. Permit me to take good time and just go ahead with. No, I would include the thing what I'd leave in the task would be 6, 7, and 9. And the others I would leave for another time. So that's my 2 cents worth. You had it before. Too bad you have to put up with it again.
Thank you. Are you making a motion, Councilor Zepari?
Yes. I move that we proceed with tasks 6, 7, and 9 of the list that's been presented to us, and drop 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 8.
Okay. Could you type that in for us, please? And while you're typing it in, I need to check with Ms. Wolf and perhaps Mr. Barry to see if, or Mr. Reiner might need to jump in on this. The given tasks that he's about to note for us, does that accomplish what you need to have accomplished? So I know we're here for a very specific, or Mr. Burt is here as well. We're here for a very specific reason. So if we eliminate certain things, and we'll see that in a minute, I ask that we just be patient until Councilor Zepari types it in here for us. Just if you could just proof to make sure that it will meet the needs in order to go forward. Mr. Burt, are you muted?
Oh.
No?
No,
Okay.
I'm not. You're definitely going to need item 5. You need the conceptual drawings and what it's going to be laid out like to help do the costs. So you would need 5. So you need 5, 6, 7, and 9, as far as I can tell. But the question is, do those prices stay the same as you start removing other items?
Councilor Zepari, did you hear Mr. Burt's comment?
Yeah, I just incorporated it as I'm typing.
Okay, great. And I assume you're working off of the first chart, which offers the comparison between the community center and the Pratt building, correct?
No, I'm working off of the definition of tasks as goes under the chart.
But you're looking at the first chart because, yes, you must be, because if you're saying task 9, that has to be. So he's on the first chart, bless you, which is the comparison between the community center and the Pratt building.
Okay. And what is this a proposal for? I'm not sure. It hasn't been.
Well, we need a motion. You don't have to make a motion. If you choose to make a motion, you're welcome to. But we need a motion if we wish to authorize the town to engage with Puri to evaluate the possibility of the theater renovation.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, Mr. Barry.
So I just want to point out that if we're asking the designers to do a conceptual design, how are they going to do that without knowing what the theater community wants? I mean, I don't understand how you can come up with a design when you don't know what the people want.
Okay, so let's look at what Councilor Zepari has put forth. So, Councilor Zepari, would you like to read your motion?
I'm getting there.
Okay.
I have trouble remembering what I'm saying here with all the other. Everybody be quiet. Don't trouble. 2020, 856. It won't go any further.
Okay.
I'm locked out.
Oh, there it goes. All right, would you like to read your motion, sir?
I move that we go forward with items 5, 6, 7, and 9 of item 2020-856 of tonight's agenda, and plan on developing the Pratt Theater for utilization by the town.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, moved by Zepari and seconded by Aubry. Okay, Councilor Zepari, would you like to speak to your motion, or are you set with that?
Well, I've already said that I think that the consensus has been that we are going to keep this theater. So we don't need to study whether or not we're going to use this or an alternate site. We have, if we promote the development of the performing arts in Groton, we will have more, I am confident that we will have more than enough activity to involve 2 auditoriums, or one theater and one auditorium. So I think that it would be good to go forward with this. And the thing that no one has spoken about, again, if this is something we all know, is that we have a contract with the developer and they're going to pay for the remodeling. Admittedly, it means a bigger advantage to their TIF program, but it doesn't mean that we should see an increase in the mill rate for the renovations. So going forward with this is, I think, a good thing for the town. The mill rate will go up if we renovate an off-site theater for use by our people. Thank you.
Thank you. So I would like to just
Point of clarification.
Excuse me?
Point of clarification.
Yes.
I see in the comments where Councilor Zepari wrote his motion, but the motion he actually verbally stated is not the motion he wrote.
I didn't get finished writing my motion because the system locked me out. I kept typing in it and I got the thing that I wrote, just got to that point and stopped, even though my fingers kept moving.
So Councilor Zepari, could you please take a look at what is typed into the chat? And I'm assuming it's the second one.
The last one's from me as a suggestion.
I like yours.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So
yours, John.
Councilor Zepari, are you content with what Mr. Burt typed in?
I am absolutely.
Councilor Aubry, are
He's
you
my hero. He
fine?
rescued me.
Councilor Aubrey, are you content with Mr. Burt's version of Councilor Zepari's motion?
Yes.
Thank you. So just to clarify now for the council before I open this up again, right now then we are discussing Councilor
clarification.
Let me finish, please. Right now we are discussing Councilor Zepari's motion that he put on the floor. Okay, so that's the item that you should be speaking to at this point in our discussion. Councilor Franco, what is your point of clarification?
The motion that Councilor Zepari verbally stated is not the motion that is written.
I just asked Councilor Zepari and Councilor Aubrey, the seconder, if they were accepting of Mr. Burt's motion that he typed. They both agreed.
It hasn't verbally been stated. And so anybody
Councilor
listening has
Zepari,
no
would
idea.
you like to read that, please? Even though you said already that it was acceptable to you, would you read the motion that Mr. Burt typed, please?
I move that we go forward with tasks 5, 6, 7, and 9 of the first presented additional scope performing arts theater feasibility study.
Thank you. All right, so now we are going to discussion. Councilor Aubrey, I'm assuming your second is fine with Councilor Zepari's verbal reading of the motion, correct?
Yes, it is.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Burt, did you wish to speak?
Yes. For one, two things. One, to Mr. Barry's point that without the part of the study where they look at the needs, then we'll need the council to tell us which additional accessory items they're going to want, like the changing rooms, that kind of thing. So talking to the users is probably a pretty important step. And other than that, Councilor Zepari mentioned the interest in the second theater. Well, if there really was interest in the second theater, then you probably want to go with that full first scope and actually look at the second theater at the same time.
I'd like to make a motion. Actually, we have other hands up. Let me go back. We have Councilor Borde for your second time. You have the floor, ma'am.
Thank you. Looking at this, once again, the original study or survey that was done was what, 700 and something out of 40 something thousand people. It was less than what, 1% of the population. So what type of study then would come before us if we did an arts feasibility study of what people would want? Are we going to get a broader population? Can I finish first before you speak?
Sure.
Thank you. Because I'd like the same respect. Thanks. Well, it's not funny. Councilor Aubrey, report to order.
Councilor Borde, you have the floor. Continue, please.
Right, I'm speaking and people are interrupting, but if I do it, then the whole place goes to shit around here. It's only good for certain people, and then people laugh.
Would you please mind your language, please? Thank you.
It gets old. It gets old.
Your time is running, ma'am.
That's fine. Let it run. I'll use all of it. My point is that I feel like there's more due diligence that needs to be served. We need to hear from our Parks and Rec and listen to them and understand what they want and what they need. Once again, using a building that we do not own. We've made no investment in our own product and our own infrastructure, and we don't know how long this lease, we still don't have a lease agreement yet. So we're all praying and hoping for something that we don't even know what is it going to be. I'm all for the arts, and I think we should keep the auditorium, but I think that we need to figure out a plan here and not rush something through last minute and without being responsible and appropriate to the considerations of the rec department and the staff at hand. But also to make sure we consider, we've had a auditorium sitting there for how long no one's done nothing with. So again, thank you.
Councilor Aubrey, you have the floor.
Okay, first of all, my apologies to Councilor Borderline. I was looking at some of the faces of other councilors and it was funny. So I do apologize for that. That's not correct. I understand her concern about the lease, and I think it would probably be pertinent that we get an outline of what that lease may incorporate, whether it has a theater or not. And we're going to have a pool, we're going to have basketball, we're going to have everything else. So we need to have an idea of the lease. I'm sure the lease will be done for a long term. It'll be done correctly. But if that's bothering people, we should maybe have an outline of it. The reason that I was not interested truly in doing something with the Fitch building is because the Fitch building, we would have to go to bonding in order to be able to pay for it. For the other building, we do not have to bond. We do not have to pay for it like money out. Yes, there's a payment for it, but it's not money out of the pockets of the people in the town. I think it's a phenomenal opportunity because of that. And I will just mention again that I think that what was said earlier was true, that most of the people that probably responded to this are people that are very interested in recreation for themselves and their children. And had it been theater instead of auditorium, I think there would have been a different response, because once people found that we did have an auditorium there, a theater there, the response has been overwhelming from people saying how much they need this, what they would do. And I think it would be a much better use for the town. I think it'd be a wonderful opportunity. And as I say, I think one of the biggest things is we don't have to come up with the money. We could have something that would be really beneficial. So thank you for your time. And again, I apologize if I was rude before.
Thank you. Get me a second to reset everything. Okay. So, I'm going to put a motion on the floor at this time, then we'll go to the other speakers. I can't do that. I will wait. I will wait. Councilor Melendez.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't want to speak for the rec department, but I get the sense from what I hear that they believe a flex space is a better use of that space than a theater. So I don't think it in my opinion, I don't think it's best to spend however much money we're going to spend on a study in order to decide whether or not we're going to do something that is sort of against the recommendation of the Parks and Rec department anyway. So I will be not supporting moving ahead with this study. That's just my interpretation. As much as perhaps I would, prefer a theater there, I will respect the wisdom of the Parks and Rec department on their interpretation of what is best for the town's Parks and Rec department. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Melendez. Councilor Franco, did you wish to speak on this item?
Yes. I would agree that if this was going to go forward, I don't think enough items were checked off the list as to how we would go forward. The concerns I have of even thinking about having a theater at the middle school community center area is the parking. I mean, unless we're going to build a parking garage there as well, because that is a large theater. And it used to be buses came in and dropped children off. And you didn't have to really think about that kind of parking to fill a theater. Kids were dropped off by buses. So I think even parking at the middle school is like an enormous issue. Let's just say you had 600 people show up to a theater one night. I don't know where they would park there at all. So to consider even putting a theater at the middle school, I think is just really something that's way out there at the moment. Never mind, I don't know how we would pay for it when we have so many other things to deal with at the moment. I believe that we have been told as a council on numerous occasions that it is best to have Parks and Rec activities in the center of town so that people can travel and try and get there. And it's more accessible by everybody. I had asked to put a field up at the Knowing School property, and I was told it's out of the way. And that's for a sports field. And I will tell you that the Mr. Girls School property is also out of the way. So if we're talking about children's activities, on the most part, if we can keep most of the activities in the center of town, I am all for that. I think a theater would be wonderful in our town. Absolutely wonderful. But I need to know what is going to be the return on this. Is whatever Parks and Rec recommending versus having a theater, what is the optimal return on this for the residents of our community? And how would it benefit us, one versus the other? And I'm not talking just revenue. I'm talking like who's going to use it in comparison. And I will just end on this note. I think in the survey, it was noted as an auditorium, and an auditorium is a large room for a meeting. And a theater is a room with a stage and seating. You can have performances in both, but when somebody says to me auditorium, I basically think of like the lunchroom at the high school, and that's an auditorium where you could have a meeting. I didn't think of it as a theater. And I think how things are presented in some of these surveys may sort of influence the response that you may get as well. So I do have concerns over that. And
that's time.
Thank you.
Thank you. I hear the little music playing and I got to stop it. I don't know how to stop it now. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to make a motion. This will be the first amendment. And I hit caps lock, sorry. Bear with me. I move that the council adopt a second additional scope that is evaluating only the Pratt Building Theater space. That's the second chart. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Granatowski, seconded by Franco. Thank you. And just briefly, I'm going to just speak to this briefly and then move on because I think everybody's pretty clear with what they want. We just need to get a vote out there. I am looking at this mainly for the reasons that I said earlier. I don't think realistically we have the funds in the town or the will in the town to renovate on our own out of taxpayer funds the community center auditorium anytime soon. We have the opportunity, as Councilor Borde stated earlier, to have the developer come in and renovate this building. And I think it's much more practical to spend just the money needed to evaluate the Pratt building, and I will stop there. All right, so we have two motions. We have the second motion, which adopts the second scope, which is on the last page. So you have to scroll down to find it. And then if that would fail, then we have Councilor Perry's original motion, which takes the first scope, which is the bigger scope, and pulls out only 4 of the tasks for that item. We have had, let's see, so we have an additional motion. So rules people, we can start again. Councilor Borde, you have the floor.
Thank you. I just wanted to agree with Councilor Franco in the sense that we do need to consider the location. Children who need access to pools and who have the least amount of access and the most need to programs, this program site is going to be further away from that population of families. So again, it's going to create transportation issues and accessibility issues for people who financially cannot get all the way up to Cal Hill Road that live on other sides of the town. So the Fitch Middle location does present an accessibility aspect for the community. So having a majority of the programs up in that location does propose an issue to the town. I think we don't have, personally, in my opinion, I'm having trouble. I'm all for the arts and I want to support the theater, but I think what we have before us tonight is not enough to make a full decision. I think we need more stuff. I think some more information needs to come before us. I also think that it would be important to have one thing that doesn't cost any money is having a public comment session where we can have an open dialogue to have people come out and speak to this, again, based on these options that have come before us. I think, yes, ultimately the council makes the final decision, but if we are elected by the people for the people, I think now we should bring this to the people and have them review this, and let's get some feedback from the community. Thank you.
I'd just like to remind that we are evaluating two motions on the floor right now. So your comments should be addressed to whether you are in favor of the First Amendment or the main motion, please. Councilor Franco.
Mr. Berry, if you put out a Survey Monkey, I think that's what it's called, Survey Monkey, questionnaire about possibly a theater versus other options, how quickly could you get responses from people in our community that we could do in-house and just review very quickly?
I think we need to flush out the questions first. The statistically valid survey that a professional survey company put out has come under question. So for us just to throw some questions out there, I'm not sure that I would want some guidance on what type of questions should be asked and how they should be asked. I think that information is important. Certainly we could throw something up tomorrow, but I wouldn't put any particular validity to it. When we did the survey, we sent the survey out to 4,300 people. We got back over 400 responses for the invitation and then 300 responses for the open online. And those, it was a statistically valid survey at 95%. So that means that if we were to do that survey, if we were to survey the 40,000 people in town, 95% of the responses would come back. It would have matched what 40,000 people surveyed responses would have been. So it does reflect the broader community. I don't think that it reflects just the folks that are interested in Parks and Recreation, because we didn't pick people that were interested in Parks and Recreation to do the survey. So I guess to answer your question, I think we'd have to think about what kind of questions we'd want to ask, what the information we were looking for, and put a survey together that way. And again, it wouldn't be statistically valid because it wouldn't be completely random.
And what kind of committee was helped decide everything that was going to go into the Pratt building? Was there a committee pulled together?
The community decided what was going to go into the Pratt building. That's why we did the needs assessment. That's why we did the survey, to get the community feedback on what they wanted. So I would say the community was the group that decided what was going to be in the Pratt Recreation building.
So when you got the results from the survey, was it who went through this and then went with the designers? Was it a committee or was it staff?
the results of the survey were presented to both Prairie and Greenplay, and Prairie developed the conceptuals based on feedback from the community. And that's why there was no.
So we didn't have. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, so that's why the conceptual plans didn't include a theater, because the community response was very low in the interest of a theater.
And is there anybody here that could speak in response to the survey and using the word auditorium and versus a theater?
Yeah, I think probably Lisa has done or worked with consultants that do surveys, and I think she could probably best speak to that.
Right. So Melissa mentioned it in the very beginning of the presentation tonight in the description about the auditorium. So the terminology auditorium came from the original existing plans when the survey was being put together.
I understand that. I'm sorry, because I have limited time, but let me just ask. When you say the word auditorium, it does not give you the same sense of saying the word theater. So if you put out a survey, I'm just asking about the validity of a survey that says auditorium versus theater. And that's what I'm trying to get at. That the community response may have been different if they heard the word theater than auditorium. Would you agree possibly?
I would probably feel more comfortable deferring to our survey, to RRC, our survey partners who can really quantify that differentiality between the terminology. We went with this, the staff approved the survey questionnaire, and we moved forward with what was presented based on what that existing terminology was. Melissa, do you want to step in here? I don't know. There she is. Do you have anything to add to that?
I don't. I mean, I think that it was based on the community meetings we had, focus groups, and RRC, and then the staff approved it. We reviewed it, and yeah. I'll also say it was a recreational needs assessment.
Added, right. So the Pratt side of that was just one section of the overall survey. So it did have its separate questions.
So this wasn't for the Pratt building. The survey was about community wants and needs, not actually for the exact Pratt building.
It was a recreation needs assessment survey, and the Pratt facility was included within that itself.
There were specific questions to the Pratt building, so it was both.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Okay, we have, I'm trying to see who's spoken to this already. We have Baumgardner, Melendez, and Zaperi who haven't spoken on this yet. So Councilor Baumgardner, go ahead. I'm starting the timer.
Madam Mayor, I have a question for you with respect to the amended motion. The motion stated, move that the council adopt a second additional scope that is evaluating only the Pratt Building theater space. So your motion would include tasks 1 through 9, correct?
No. I'm going to stop the timer. I am moving the second scope. So this is what I was trying to clarify at the beginning of the discussion. There were two scopes that we were looking at here. The first was 1 through 9, which measured community center versus Pratt building theater spaces. The second only evaluates the Pratt building theater. So my motion is to only evaluate the Pratt building theater because practically I don't think we are going to have money anytime soon to do anything at the community center. I will restart your timer.
Madam Mayor, and so just look, and this is on page 78, correct? The chart you're referencing, as opposed to, because I know there's two charts, 78 and 70. on
Hold
page.
on, I have to get there.
I just want to make sure I'm looking at the right documentation.
Right, I'm trying to scroll.
78 and 75, I believe.
Hold on.
Yeah.
78 is the chart that I'm referencing. I'm going to restart your timer again.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. Okay. And anybody can answer this. I'm just having trouble differentiating between the two because there's two charts, right? And like maybe if somebody can give me a quick rundown, 30-second rundown of what each chart spells out, because I know there's a few motions on the floor now.
Okay, I'll do that real quickly. The first chart compares and the merits of the community center theater versus the Pratt Theater and evaluates both. The second chart only looks at the Pratt Theater and evaluates the merits of that.
Okay. For the question for Director Barry or Manager Burt, what if we were to go the route of this? Obviously, y'all had to do your due diligence to put together this packet and this proposal more or less. So what would your recommendation be if we were to go the route of doing the additional scope? Would you rather us support or approve the all task 1 through 9 as opposed to nitpicking certain tasks?
I think if in listening to the council, it sounds like there's a strong interest in the community for a growing theater community. And I would think that you would want to look at both options because you may find that the community center can better meet the needs of the theater community. And, with this apparent upswell in interest in theaters, perhaps money raised to pay for the community center theater wouldn't be quite as difficult.
You have 1 minute, Councilor Baumgartner.
So if that's the case, I would like to make a motion to move. Would it be both feasibility studies?
Would you just mind typing that in, please?
I know. I want to word it correctly.
It would be the first one.
Okay. So yes. So I make a motion to move option 1, which including all tasks associated with the expanded scope. This I will send. Okay. Motion has been sent to everyone in the chat box. I make a motion to move option 1, including all tasks associated with the expanded scope.
Just for clarification, before you move, this is the option that would include evaluating the community center and the Pratt building?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Do you want to add that in just so everybody's clear, please? Thank you. Let me stop this thing again. All right, so that's been moved by Baumgartner. Is there a second?
Second, Bordelon.
Seconded by Bordelon. Okay, so we have 3 things on the floor. So really, we need to confine our remarks to which of these 3 things we want to do, if at all, okay? So I'm just gonna rephrase what we have before us before I recognize anybody else at this point. The thing we will be voting on first is the additional scope that appeared at the beginning of your packet. That is the one that has tasks 1 through 9, and it would compare Community Center Fitch Middle with Pratt Building. If that would fail, we would then go to a proposal to just evaluate the Pratt Building. If that would fail, we would be back to the main motion of Councilor Perry which picks out options 5, 6, 7, and 9 from the very first motion. Okay, that's what we're looking at, guys. Those are your three choices that we should be confining our discussion to at this point.
Just quick point of clarification. You had
Yes.
mentioned that it was basically a comparison with the community center, but isn't it in the I think it's page 78. It says up to two locations outside of the Pratt building. I'm sorry. I remember reading up to 2 excluding, so they would be 3, essentially reviewing 3. So I'm just speed reading through.
Mayor, I can point that clarification out.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay. It's under number 3. Do you see that? Okay.
Yes. Thank you, Lisa.
You're welcome.
All right. So, let's see. I'm trying to think. All right, we will go to Councilor Melendez.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Director Barry, do you currently believe that the best use for this, as of right now, with the information you have from the survey that you've done, do you believe that the best use of this space is as a flex space or as a theater?
I believe the best use of that space is flex space, and that is solely based on the response that we got back from the community.
Okay. So considering the fact that you did a study and it was statistically valid and you had a random sample, do you think it's likely that if we went forward with this study, do you think it's likely that this study is going to show different information that would change your opinion? That you think the best space is now a theater instead of a flex space?
Well, I think the 2 different scopes that have been proposed both include speaking only to the theater community. So I would expect that whatever feedback comes out of the theater community is going to be strongly in favor of keeping a theater in the Pratt building. So I'm not sure that it would be an equal comparison.
Okay, so you're saying that if we did the study, it would likely have the same problems, I guess, that are proposed of the survey that we already did, where people think that the population was biased towards one way or the other, and we would be in the same spot anyway.
It's my understanding in reading through the scope and in talking with Greenplay is that, and Prairie, is that they are only going to be speaking to the theater community to identify their needs. There is not going to be a statistically valid survey sent out to the community, looking for 400 responses from 4,300 randomly selected participants. So
Okay.
The 2 surveys, you're not really comparing apples to apples.
Okay, I see. So the first survey was asking what does the residents of the town want? This survey is asking to the theater community, if we keep this a theater, what do you want us to, how do you want us to, what do you need in order for us to make that as effective as possible?
Exactly.
Okay.
So, Mark, I'd like to just clarify that this option does not include an actual survey. This is meeting with the theater groups. So this is not sending out a statistically valid survey. Back to Councilor Franco's, I think, original question about a survey monkey, that's certainly something that you all could do on your own, as Mark had mentioned, but in this proposal, there is no survey included.
Okay, so if we were to have the opinion that the flex space is the best use for this, then this additional step is really, it's not useful in any way. Is that correct?
Well, I think it's only. Oh,
I was just going to say.
It's only useful in addressing, I think, what the council is hearing from a small group, that a theater is essential to Groton.
So to clarify, Councilor Melendez, both of the options presented to us by Puri and Greenplay tonight on this make an assumption that a majority of the council wants to go ahead with the theater. So as you said earlier, if you do not agree with going forward with the theater, then you would be voting against any of the options presented here, because both of the additional scopes go forward on the premise that there should be a theater somewhere, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll be voting against this for the same reason as the last one. I think flex space is the best use of the space, and therefore I don't think we need to study what we should be doing to make the theater. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm glad you clarified that. All right, Councilor Zaperi.
I just wanted to point out, we had talked about the fact that we don't have the money to develop a theater at the middle school community center. We do have a financial backing and a way to develop the theater at the Pratt building without increasing taxes for our population. So I think developing the theater at the Pratt building is definitely the way to go. Then compare the three different motions, and I did. The Second Amendment, to go back to Proposal 1, means that just the planning stages that they have proposed will cost us $70,400, according to the money listed on the bottom. The proposal that I made using that initial part one of the table one of the proposal and limiting it to 5, 6, 7, and 9 would cost $24,840. And the third proposal, to go with go fully with the second graph that we received, the second chart, would cost $40,450. I think that just for the cost point of view, I think the proposal I made is good. I'm not so sure that we would like to have a focus group consisting of the current theater groups that can be mustered, only because I think there's a lot more interest in the performing arts than the groups that are already formed. And I think if we do develop a commission on performing arts, we will generate far more interest. I think the theater should be developed to be the most versatile. It should be developed as a theater with dressing rooms and storage space. But I think we should try to do this with a minimum expense of planning. I think we should assume that we want it and go ahead and do the planning that's necessary to develop it.
Thank you. Any other counselors wish to speak for the first time on this, because I have second time hands? Councilor Bordelon, you have the floor.
Thank you. So pertaining to these motions, I mean, it's a really tough position to be in. I mean, I feel like we were late to the game. We weren't part of the roundtable discussion as to what direction the question should go to this company. There was miscommunication. I mean, the building's been there forever. Like Councilor Baumgartner, I too used to swim there and go there as a child, and knew that there was always an auditorium / theater or whatever. It's been there. I'm having trouble kind of going against our staff. They're saying they want a flex space. So right now, as it stands, there's no motion to leave things as originally planned, correct? Just the only motions on the floor are the options towards what type of theater or what type of study we wanted to do, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So once one motion is down, a person can put up another motion if we chose.
Yes, or you could, just as Councilor Melendez said, he's going to vote no against these because he is putting his faith in the staff.
Right, but voting no, another one could go on. And so if one is voted down, then another motion could come on the table in time for it to be voted on, which would then allow the option for the other one possibly not to go through, correct? So once one motion is voted down, at that time, another motion could be put on the floor.
Yes, but if your goal is to not vote for theater space, then you simply vote no on all of these motions, as Councilor Melendez has expressed he is going to do.
It's a tough spot to be in because I'm for the arts, but I think that last minute trying to snowball a plan, and once again, not our fault, but I feel like this is an important part to roundtable discussions and making sure that people are involved earlier on in the situation. Also, we don't have tonight how long our lease is going to be at the Pratt building. So it does kind of hinder a whole bunch of different things. So we're voting on something that we don't really know a lot about.
1 minute.
Thank you. So it's tough, but last minute to try to change the whole plan and do such as we are. I think if we're going to invest in the arts, we need to do it on our own will as well, and we can't do it on the backs of investors coming in and possibilities of properties that we're not sure what the future may hold in them. I think if we really want the arts, then we should make it happen, fundraise, as it was stated tonight. Look how much money they're trying to raise for the sale. We could do that and get our arts program off the ground here if we make it a priority. Thank you.
All right. We will vote on the second amended motion, which is option 1. Please raise your hand if you are in favor of option 1. Raise your hand and keep your hand up until I call name, please.
Can you just read the options for the record to make sure we're voting correctly? Thank you.
Moving on option 1, which includes all tasks associated with the expanded scope, including the community center. How do you vote? Yes? All those in favor say aye. Baumgartner? All those opposed, please raise your hand.
Melendez.
Aubry, Melendez, Zapari, Franco, Granatowski, and any abstentions?
Bordelon.
Bordelon? Are we down a counselor? Did we lose a counselor? Did we lose Councilor Parker?
Indeed.
6, 7, 8. We are at 8 counselors. Okay, give me 1 second, guys. That motion fails. 1 in favor, Baumgartner. Opposed, Aubry, Melendez, Granatowski, Franco, Zapari, abstention, Bordelon. We are on to the first amended.
I'd like to make an amended motion.
Which is, can you please type it in the little box? Thanks. You can, if you want to talk while you're typing, that's fine, or you can just wait.
I make an amended motion for the Town of Groton Town Council to postpone a feasibility study for a performing arts theater until the Town of Groton conducts a survey to distinguish the community wants and needs, including the option of a performing arts theater, along with other options presented for the Pratt building.
Second, Bordelon.
It's been moved in second as, Mr. Burde, are you getting the motions that are here, please? All right, Councilor Franco, did you wish to address this?
Yes. I respect our community and their wants and needs, and that they responded to a survey. I don't think the language in the survey was as clear with the options that could have been presented. And I would like to see if specifically in the Pratt building, what they would like to see there. And I respect everything that the Parks and Rec Department have presented to us, and which came from our community. But I want to be sure that these are exactly what they want in the Pratt building, and to change the terminology from an auditorium to a performing arts theater and get the response of our community. Thank you. Because I just think we are only 9 people in our community, and what we want doesn't always represent what the majority of our community wants. So I would like to hear from them. Thank you.
And I just need a procedural question answered. I had this discussion with Mr. Bronk and Mr. Burt regarding the time frame on all of this. How quickly could we put together how quickly could we put together a survey, and could we get it done within a short enough time span to meet Mr. Reiner's writing of the TIF proposal?
I'd like to hear the staff, other staff's input first.
Okay.
I will say I've had quite a bit of experience with SurveyMonkey, and I've run into issues with people repeatedly, like multiple times entering. So I don't put a, you can respond multiple times. Yeah.
I'm just going to interrupt for a second. I don't know that that's what Councilor Franco was referring to. Are you referring to a SurveyMonkey, or are you referring to a survey like they conducted?
Oh, you're looking at actually having them conduct a full survey?
I don't know. That's what I'm asking. Yeah. Councilor Franco, would you clarify your motion?
I'm looking for a survey.
Like a statistically valid survey.
I just want a survey to go out, and whatever is in the best interest of our town, however way we conduct it.
But do you want something like what they did prior to this that brought us?
If they can get it done in a quick enough time period, that would be wonderful. Yes.
Okay. So then can something like that be done, Mr. Bronk? You turned your camera on, so I don't know if you want to answer.
Just to provide a little insight, we have done surveys in the past. We did the Great Blue survey a few years ago, and usually they can be done everything could be done within 6 to 8 weeks.
Okay, so that would that fit your timeline? So is this a Mr. Bronk or Mr. Reiner question then? If we did this, if we went full on and we wanted to do a legit survey rather than just a SurveyMonkey, which Mr. Burt has raised concerns about, would that fit with your time frame, Mr. Reiner, to move this proposal forward in a timely manner for Ressler?
So this is John Reiner. So what Ressler is really looking for is some level of a decision from the town on whether you're looking for a theater or more the flex space so that they can start programming the area. So I think if we had an answer, if we were able to do a survey 6 to 8 weeks, and then time for the council to digest that information and then make a decision, I think that could fall within the time frame of what Ressler's looking for. If it went much further than that, it might start getting a little close, but I think we can certainly work with them.
And just to follow up, Mr. Reiner. So let's say in 8 weeks we get the results and the council decides they want to go with the auditorium, and then we go back to the process, which has to go through the RTM and all that. Does that present any issue in terms of negotiating the TIF?
From negotiating the TIF, no. I think we're still a ways out on the TIF negotiations. It's more Ressler designing their master plan. That's kind of what the first kind of time frame hurdle is for them.
Okay.
Madam Mayor,
that answered my clarifying question.
Madam Mayor, could I speak, please?
Yes,
So if we do a survey and it takes 6 to 8 weeks, and at the end of the 6 to 8 weeks, it's clear that we need to, or there's a strong interest in having a theater, we're still going to have to go through the coming up with a new conceptual plan, looking at operation and maintenance moving forward. So there's still, it's not going, the process isn't going to end after a survey. And I do want to remind everybody that the survey that we paid for, and Lisa, maybe you can help me out because I don't have I'm guessing the similar type survey, we probably wouldn't ask as many questions, but a similar type survey is probably going to be in the range from $12,000 to $15,000. Is that a pretty accurate number?
Yeah, thanks, Mark. Yes, and I think you have to be, what I would caution you against is, and I don't know if I'm able to share my screen or not, and I can let you see the questions of the actual survey. Am I permitted to share my screen?
Well, we have seen those questions before. We've seen the survey before.
Okay, so I guess my bottom line point, yes, Mark, you are correct. Depending on to what level that's going to be. Now, this is obviously going to be a targeted survey in the sense that you are just surveying, or are you looking at the whole performing arts within the community, or are you just focusing on theater? Is what you need to, this would be something that you're going to have to consider in the compilation of what that looks like and questions.
Okay, so we have 3 motions on the floor. One is to, the thing we'll be voting first is to conduct this survey. And we've heard it's going to be entailing a little bit more than, we don't want it to be something that people could game. So we want it to be a legitimate survey to go out to the public. And that will cost us money to do, and they will have to come back to us, I'm assuming, to get an appropriation. And if it's over 10,000, it'll have to be run through RTM. So just keep that in mind for that. And then we have 2 other motions on the floor as well, and it is 9:54. So I don't want to be at the place where we lose people again because the evening is getting late. So just asking you to keep that in mind, please. Councilor Zepari.
I'm going to pass. It's getting late and we want to move on. I think we've made our points. I don't see any point to delay, and I think we're coming up to budget season, and by the time this survey is done, I think we're going to be up to our necks in budget. But let's move on. Thank you.
Councilor Borde.
Yes, I just wanted to ask, will we get some input as to like what the questions are going to ask, or just a submission of those in their emails so that we can review them before they're sent out? And are we going to try to target more than 4,300 if people actually take the survey? I think the more that we can send out, the better, and shoot bigger than 43 and hope that that number will go up from 400 to even higher. So those are my questions about this motion. Is it going to be something that we're going to get a chance to see the questions before they're distributed? Thank you.
I don't think we have answers to that, as it's not in the motion. So I'm not sure how that would play out.
I think that'd be an important part of it, because that's kind of where we are now. We're here because we weren't part of it. So I guess what I'm asking is that we are kind of part of it, so that we can send our feedback regarding the questions sooner, and then later saying auditorium, theater, oh my God, flex space, and we didn't have any background discussion. So if we move in this direction, I think it's a great motion. I just think that we need to be brought around the table sooner. Thank you.
I had one question.
Yes.
For Lisa. When we heard 6 to 8 weeks, that was if it was done internally, I believe. Lisa, how quickly do you think you could accomplish the survey?
So I would probably be in the same time frame, because by the time you're getting feedback from everybody, we put our faith in RRC. They do this professionally nationwide, and they do it at all different levels of parks and recreation to open space, downtown areas, higher ed. So they're professionals at what they do, and to statistically get the questions correct and without a lot of back and forth, it's going to be at least 6 to 8 weeks.
Okay. So I want to try to get this taken care of tonight so we don't have it hanging over our heads. So I'm going to call for a vote on the second amendment, which is Councilor Franco's motion, which is the survey. So all those in favor, please say aye.
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 So that was Bordelon,
Melendez.
Melendez, Franco,
He has
opposed.
his hand up.
I'm sorry.
He has his hand up.
Oh, thank you. Heed. Opposed. Aubrey, Zaperi, Granatowski, and any abstentions. So that motion passes 5 in favor, 3 opposed, 0 abstentions. Thank you. We are on to review of agenda items. I don't believe we have anything. Other business, we're at 9:58. You have 2 minutes.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Moved by Aubrey, seconded by Zaperi. All those in favor of adjournment, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? So moved unanimously. We are adjourned at 9:59. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Ms. Wolf, and I think we lost our other guest. Thank you, Mr. Barry and Mr. Bronk and Mr. Reiner. Have a good night, everybody. Be well.